fucking mistake. I looked at the chat and someone said, "Be nervous." Why did I look in chat?
Don't look at chat.
I'm not. Now I'm not. I've learned from this.
Look,
The
I could do
fucking...
share screen and just share my
No,
this
no, I'm
in
good.
Discord.
I'm good.
There you go. And then you could just watch that. Is that better?
Okay. Yes, way better actually. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. All right. So I'll open all the links and stuff in here, so you'll be able to see it, and then you won't be able to see when I go into MapleStory and ignore you, which I don't do. Okay. All right. Let's help you out. What can I do for you today? Do you have like one big question? Do you have a list of small questions?
So in general, so as probably a lot of like people before me, like in the past 2 months, started playing like at the beginning of New Age. I was on and off, the same old story, playing since like 2008, coming back and leaving so. And this is like the furthest I came, like in Maple in progression. And I always looked at like videos of like MapleStory YouTubers with like whales, people like in late game, and I was always like, it's so fucking, it must be so cool to be like that. It's probably so fucking cool to have like mules that do like C10 fucking bosses and stuff. So I don't want to take this game too hardcore, but I did want to like be efficient with my time if I am playing, and like I spend quite a lot of time on the game, so I wanted to be as efficient as possible, I guess, but also not do things that I hate, like fucking monster power. But
be as efficient as is still fun for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, that's what I specialize in. So you're in the right place.
Awesome.
So there is some stuff that you would think like that would be cool if I could reach that point or reach that content.
Yeah.
But it might not be realistic for you. So let's explore those things. Like, how much do you play? Like, how much do you feel comfortable playing? How much is fun for you?
I would say that like once I like start making WAPs for myself, I can look at like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours a grind a day, just for like money, for like meso. But like my favorite thing in the game is bosses, and like I always try to like power test myself and like see how far I can like go basically. But I kind of feel so fucking the idiot I am. I took Bishop, which like in my head I was like, oh, fun class. People said it's like OP or whatever in some tier list videos, and it's like they told me like they would snatch you in late game for like black mage runs and stuff, and I'm like, this is insanely underwhelming mid game. Not even mid, like early like late early game. This is insanely underwhelming. I can't join like Verusila. I can't join Chaos fucking Gloom because I don't even do 5%.
Yeah, you can join, but then you don't get the drops.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is like, so what the fuck am I doing with my time? And like that really slows my progression. Like the only ways I could get like drops on Hardwheel and Lucid is like join a struggle or like I don't know, find a fucking sugar daddy or something that like duos with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Or another thing that a lot of people do is like through guilds, right? Because even if it's not somebody's main character, or even if the main people in guilds already like beyond the point where you are, everyone will have like secondary or tertiary or whatever characters or hyper burns, right? That are like in a similar spot that will be able to boss together with you, where it's still a reasonably easy run because everyone knows the mechanics, but it's not super fast in the extent where you can't deal your 5% damage. So I think guilds and alliances are usually a good place to look for that as well.
Yeah, I joined like a guild and I went on like the Discord and everything, but yeah, I didn't try to reach out yet. But that what you're saying now, that makes a lot of sense on like obviously. Like probably guilds or like liberated or whatever have like a mule that can help me with like some weeklies. Yeah,
especially with hyper burns, because many people like myself included, I would just leave characters like boss mules like around 245 to 250 or something. I kind of leave them there. But with hyper burn coming out and with 6 job being such a big spike at 260, more and more people are more inclined to throw like their level up potions and stuff at 250s and getting some characters around 260 as well, which then can very easily like duo hard lucid and hard will. And if you can, like you say, sugar daddy, but if you duo with someone who is strong enough, like barely to solo like hard lucid and hard will, but it's just way easier and way faster to duo it, you'll be way more likely in a small party to hit your 5%, because the difference in damage between you and them would have to be way greater for you to not hit 5%, as in a full party of 6 people. So like party size of like 3 to 4 is probably where you want to be looking at. If you need more people than that, that means the boss is probably a little bit out of your league and you want to reach your 5%. But if you can do it comfortably with like 2, 3, or 4 people, then you're probably closer to fighting within your range, plus increasing your chance of hitting blue or even green orb.
Which is like a frustrating idea, because so like I joined like a 6-man run, all women. And like I don't do enough damage. I'm red, right? And then like I end it, I don't get the loot, I'm upset. And then like all the meso I like quote unquote saved up for like a SFS or whatever. Just I throw it on cubes because I'm frustrated that I'm not strong enough. And like I try to like, get damage where I can using cube, like the immediate progression that I can do with like cubes and stuff. So that's where I throw my money at instead of saving it like I should. So yeah, it's just that I don't know. I feel like I'm missing obviously Bishop, right, support and everything, but I'm missing the burst. And I have Benediction. It's great. I have like Infinite and whatever. I got nice damage. Fucking without the Origin, I would probably quit the fucking game. But
or the character. Some people also switch jobs and stuff. That's
yeah. My friend suggested that I maybe like if I feel that Bishop is so underwhelming, I might like wanna switch jobs to a Fire Poison or a Ice Mage. But I was like, no, I was so eager, I was so fucking I was too stubborn, and I was like, no, I want to do Bishop, I want to be support, and now I am paying the fucking price.
Well, the thing with Bishop is it's not really like a you problem, it's more like a way of that it's registered by the game, because Bishop adds more damage by itself to the party than any of the members ever can, but it's just that it only counts the number of damage that you deal personally, not how much damage you are adding to everyone else's party. If to everyone else's damage, if that number was adequately like measured, then you would always be top damage as a Bishop, basically. Just because of how good Benediction is and how much damage you add, and healing, and the final damage, and the IED, and the damage percent with the Peacemaker and everything, right? Like, if you add all of that up together, you add more damage than everyone, but Nexon is just incapable of registering it properly. So when you do solo bosses, what are the ones where you don't feel... Up to which ones do you feel like you're not weak, and when do you start feeling like this takes forever?
So, like, my goal for now was just to be able to hit, like, solo Age Lotus and the Damien. So I tried to like run solo Hard Lotus, for example, and I got to like phase 3, 80%, or like I downed him like 20% health, and it took me like 20 minutes, right? Like 70 minutes, which at some point I realized like, okay, I'm fucking fighting an uphill battle that I'm not going to win, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna check out. I soloed a normal slime in like 12 minutes, which is like probably my highest solo clear. But it felt nice. Like, I don't mind spending a lot of time on a boss as long as I know that in the time frame of 30 minutes I am able to beat him. That I don't mind. I don't mind throwing like 29 minutes on a boss, because I fucking love doing it. I love the mechanics and like the gameplay. But it's just it's the just the not having the burst and enough damage. It's like I see my friend playing like we opened at the same time, around the same time, and he has a Dawn Warrior. We are pretty much around like the same, main stat and like stats in general, right? He's just it's like, obviously it's Dawn Warrior, right? But you can't even compare, and it feels like he's playing a totally different game than me. So right now,
well, like I said, he is, right? Because if there's a party that has a 5-man and they add him, he might hit like triple your damage or something, whatever. But but adding him to the party might still make that party fail. But if they add you instead, they might succeed. But the problem is, he, even if they fail, he'll be green, and you, even if you succeed, you'll be red. That's the problem.
Exactly, yeah. Which, like, what you're saying now, I didn't think about it this way, which is comforting.
Well, it's pretty new,
yeah.
right? Them adding the orbs and everything to go against the carries and stuff is because in Korea they didn't want all of the people that joined into Reboot to be able to progress too fast by getting carried on everything. But because they don't register the numbers properly, it's hugely detrimental to all of the supports in the game. So you do have to play around. Sometimes you put on Benediction and you actually teleport away from your team so you can do more damage. You have to communicate more, like, hey, I need a little bit of extra time to do the damage. Like, are you okay waiting like a minute or two, letting me hit like blue or like hit green and then you burst again so that we can kind of see where we are. That's why doing it within a guild and within people that you have a little bit more close contact with, it's usually easier. Or if you do a pickup group like through the boss menu and you're like, hey, are you guys okay waiting? And if people say no, then okay, you just don't party with them. And if they say yes and the party goes well and they actually like wait for you and it matches up, then you can, you know, add those people to the buddy list and be like, hey, do you guys want to run again next week, right? And kind of create like a pool of people that you can pick from at that point, because not everyone is going to understand like what you're saying. Like some people might be just too Dawn Warrior brain and too Night Lord brain to be like, I do big number. And that's like, you know, like, Night Lord smash. And then they just see only that and they don't realize how much faster runs are because of bishops in it, and that it's worthwhile to just wait a little bit extra and make sure that everyone gets the loot and you're more together, you know, in that.
I'm still stuck on like what you said about popping Benediction and teleporting away from everyone. This I'm writing down. I'm fucking taking this one with me. Which
I mean, if you're red and everyone else is green and everything, and the boss run is going fine, try to like lower everyone's damage and increase your run instead. Yeah, it's a little weird that you have to go down to that, but
it makes a lot of sense. But it's like it's funny because I need to fight my urge to support in a way, but I want to be fucking blue at least. So,
But having friends is going to cuck your cubing. Well, who said your cubing goes worse if you have a lot of friends? I think your cubing goes better.
So, I removed a lot of my friends because of like the whole friend maxing panic. And like, I almost flew to Ohio for like geo maxing. But I removed like almost... I removed almost all of my friends from the friends list.
Why?
I'm not gonna put Nexon on blast here, but are you in the ping brigade?
I'm ping brigade, yeah.
Okay, so I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna say that I had pretty solid cubes, pretty good cubes since I removed my friends. But it's counterintuitive because now I don't have friends in game. But yeah, it's
Well, the thing with all of these is always like, first of all, from everything we even tangentially know, even though that's like a patent they own, that's almost most definitely not in the game. Even if it was in the game, you could never prove it with like a sample size of 1 or even a sample size of like 20 people doing it, right?
It's like a feeling, you know?
Exactly. So, but the problem is you can't really confirm it, but then so much is exposed of Nexon over the years that you could end up being right, but you could also...
Exactly.
But you don't have the information on whether you are or not, you know?
Yeah, even before the lawsuit that just happened, I always told my friends like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to like LOL, right? The Mercedes fucking starting map. Right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to LOL because it's my lucky spot. And they were like, you're fucking crazy. And I was like, nah. So
you don't know. You don't know if there's anything right there, or if it's just confirmation bias. Because some people will say like off event, best event.
Yeah,
and then it's like
there's no fucking proof.
It's like, are you lucky on event? It's like, well, I never cube on event. I only cube off event. Well, yeah, if you're only cube off event, then you're only gonna get success off event, right? You're never gonna. So it's like, then it's just confirmation bias. So, but then it could turn out that 3 years later that actually some maps did have a bonus that you were actually, but the problem is that you can't know that. You cannot be correct, but you could end up being not wrong. If that
there's some in a funny way it makes sense. There's just something about the star forcing, and it's 30%, but it's not really 30%. It's like we know it's not really 30%, but yeah. So
from what I've seen and what people like sent to me, it is, but the problem is that humans are very bad at, humans are very good at like seeing patterns. So even if there is one, and we see it, you can't be sure that you're seeing it because it is there, because you'll also see patterns all the time, even if there isn't one. And that's kind of the problem.
I fucking love the psychology of this, by the way. I didn't think
Yeah.
that I would come on here but I love this direction that he took, because it's not even about my progression, but it's fucking nice. So yeah. So
Oh yeah, okay. That was a subtle way of saying that we should get back on point.
tangent
I
upon the
understand.
tangent,
Yeah. Yeah. So there could be a few things at work, right? So one is like double checking that all of your stats are like where we want them to be, to make sure that you are making the most use of the time that you're spending on the game, in terms of efficiency, but also in terms of how you get, spread all your points and how you attribute all of your, links and legion and hyperset and all of that, to make sure that you're optimizing for the work you've already put in. And then the other thing is just like practicing the bosses and getting better at it. A lot of times you'll see people who are not so good at bosses be very like over respecting certain attacks, for example. Like you're doing a Lucid and someone tells Dragon and everyone immediately jumps to the top, but you can like keep attacking for like 4 or 5 more extra seconds, right? That doesn't require you to really take that much more risk. It's just knowing. It doesn't require you to set your stats better. It doesn't require you to upgrade anything, but your damage goes up, especially also compared to other people and pickup groups and people who are less experienced. You can get away with less damage and still hitting, higher numbers by knowing when it's not risky, knowing when to use your iframe or your immunity, knowing how long an attack takes and how much you really should be dodging, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is experience, and part of that is just maybe some tips and tricks or something that I can give you. But if it's the stand-in Dragon Breath for big final damage, no, that's only for Demon Avengers. But there could be some stuff like that helps you out. But yeah, you are being kind of put offside by being a support and by having that really, really rudimentary red circle system, which doesn't take into account at all the damage that you're doing. So that does kind of suck. But the plus side is, of course, is that the further you go into the game, hopefully people are more and more understanding about how much they need you, and they're more forthcoming in terms of waiting and letting you do your damage, first of all. And you kind of have to wade through the people who are more casual and who just either don't understand it or don't want to be engaged with that. They just want to do their thing and just, kill a monster and move on.
Yeah, it kind of feels like there's a certain layer that you pass, like in the game, that it's somewhere. It kind of felt on me, and I'm not even there. I'm talking from like my friend's experience and like seeing from other people. It feels like around 269, 270, where like this is where like you how you say it, like you filter the it's like a layer that like anyone that goes beyond it is more how you describe them, like people who are more patient and are like more to help you progress. And yeah,
I think there's a certain level of understanding in the game of like that it's like understanding that you're not in a sprint but you're in a marathon. That like understanding comes with like how much time is in between upgrades and that and how much money and hours it actually is going to take to get to the next step. And that filters out I don't think it's just the understanding, but it also filters out the people who just don't have the patience for it. And the people who are more cyclical and like they come back when there's a big event and huge gains, and then they play and then they get a lot of value for their time, a lot of adrenaline and a lot of oxytocin and whatever, like their fucking brain
that's
is like
what I'm trying to
blasting.
battle right now, because I have like the quote unquote adrenaline drop of the like the beginning of the end of this event of like the dentist, right?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel like I'm not getting these daily huge 100 node stones every day, and I'm starting to feel like the plateau of my progression, and I'm kind not trying to battle through it because it makes it sound bad, but more like trying to get used to like a new kind of it's almost like it's a different game when it's off event. It's almost like I'm playing a completely different game now that the event is coming to an end. Yeah. So
but with that we saw the roadmap, right, with the events that are coming after this. And there's a lot of stuff still coming that will almost keep the gains going, like another event buff where you can basically just build up to the same event skills again and stuff like that. So
that's also something I was thinking of when I'm gonna lose out on the whole Identisk what was it, the
gift.
The Identisk gift, exactly. I'm losing like 30 ID, 15 crit rate, 25 buff duration, which is, you know, fucking bishop. So that's a huge one on me. And
That's huge,
35 boss. Yeah, I'm losing a lot of things here. So I was thinking about like, how do I like stay afloat even when I lose the gift, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that in when we go through everything. Yeah. So so you like bossing, you like to see your progress through bossing. You got like when you say like an hour and a half to 2 hours, that's like your total game playing per day? Like an hour and a half grinding, like, a half hour dailies kind of thing?
Yeah. So something like that. It's like obviously on like what days today is today's Thursday.
Tuesday, I think. I think it's Thursday.
Yeah, so like when weekly bosses reset, basically, that's when I almost give all of my day to Maple because it's like my day, you know.
Okay.
It's like the most fun I'm having. So at this day, I'm just like running through all the bosses I can do on all my mules and everything. So yeah. But yeah, what you said is pretty on point. As like with time.
Okay. Did you have any... so I don't know how familiar you are with my sessions or with my commands or with my information in general. Is there anything you've seen where you have any questions on like how a system works or anything you heard from someone else and you're like, I don't know what they were talking about. Can you put it into context? Anything like that?
I don't have... I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm just gonna roll with it. Like I'm gonna... Yeah.
Okay, so we could just go like one screenshot at a time and kind of see which topics flow from that, and then move on when you feel like everything is clear.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the first screenshot I see here from you is your familiars. How much do you know about that? What's your plan on that?
I am scared of familiars, and it's because when I grind, I need like a not an immediate reward, but at least something that's like it's just that I saw this Reddit thread once about like someone saying like now that 6th job came out, there's no need really to like grind familiars as much as you used to, because now you can just grind like on, you know, Cernium and above and get like guaranteed gains with like the solar like the Elder fragments and like the with like the 6th job advancement. And I saw it and I was like, yeah, I kind of hated farming familiars, and it's like it's just another fucking gamble that like you add on top of like a giant layer of gambling in this game already. And I was like, I don't know if I have. I opened a increased item drop, like a normal item drop familiar, and I was like, I think I'm happy with this for now. I'd go as far as to say that I'm probably never gonna open the 3rd slot. Unless you suggest that it's, I don't know, like, insanely important otherwise. So, yeah. That's kind of my stand on familiars.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not like something... what level are you, by the way, right now?
Oh, I just leveled up to 166.
266, okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's... Yeah, there's definitely a lot of schools of thought. Some people were thinking like, oh, I'm not going to do familiars because I'm just going to be grinding afterwards. And some people were like, well, you should probably do familiars before 6th job, right? Because then afterwards, you're not going to get them anymore. There is definitely less... the general... what you're looking for is like something that has like a pity system or like a guarantee that you know if you put like X amount of hours into it, you know for sure that you're at least going to get something, right? Yeah. Where I guess with grinding technically isn't there because you could get unlucky on fragments for like 500 hours in a row, but that's very unlikely to happen. So you know that you're at least going to see some fragments. We have the daily, right? So you're going to be able to level up your... because everything is just... all the things you're doing is essentially to try to get your character stronger, right? So it all comes down to where do the most hours lead to the most getting stronger, and then how do you divide your hours between all of the systems that exist that can make you stronger, be it Legion, be it leveling, be it specifically grinding for certain items, be it bossing, yeah, be it familiars, whatever. And then try to find the match between dividing your hours over those things. And it's definitely sure that familiars is very high levels of very wide standard deviation, right, around the average. Like someone can get way above average luck and someone can get way under average luck, and it's hundreds of hours apart from each other. And it's much more reliable gains to be working on Grandis because you get levels, which gives you final damage on bosses, which gives you access to more bosses, which gives you access to more areas with more symbols, which gives you more damage, which gives you fragments, which builds out your 6 job, right? It is definitely more guaranteed. And there's always a point where you can be like, okay, I don't really want to level at this point, or leveling takes forever now, and the value of leveling is going down. And now the value of familiars comparatively is going up, and you can be like, I'm just going to go back down to a lower level area because your drops are not affected by your level in that sense, and you can just go back
what
into.
Time does that come to effect? Like at around what level would you say to yourself, like, okay, I am better off spending my time like now, just grinding familiars instead of like trying to get XP, which I'm barely making. Like
Yeah, that's
at around what time?
like getting the one thing is like you're still. Yeah, so regular drop rate is definitely good. The large drop rate is, like the gold standard for drop rate from familiars, because that goes to 100%, so that's an extra 50%. And of course, there's probably some graph that you can make in amount of hours on average to make. We could math out that number, I guess, if you want to. If you can somehow if you have enough input, you could go for like, what is that number? Like, how many hours of trading that, if you know you're going to do that, will make it so that if you go for the large drop first, right, under average, but again, the standard deviation is so wide, that within that many hours first into the familiar, and then that many hours into farming in Grandis, that eventually you end up with more fragments as well, right, because of the familiar. Then
I'm not gonna say that I'm lost, right? But I'm just gonna say that I was really bad at math, and I am and I have ADHD, so I am not 100% behind you from like a minute ago.
Okay, well, maybe I can compare it to. Are you familiar with Commercy and like with the narrows there and everything?
Is it something that I need to do? Like, do I need to get familiar with Commercy?
Well,
because
I'm just trying to say about the concept, because like if you do Commercy, you can get a certain amount of dineros a day, and then you can buy an accessory after X amount of time. So it's like something that has a pity system. And if you're trying to get high Star Force accessories, some people opt to go through Commercy because even though it might take longer and it's not content that everyone likes, it's guaranteed at the end of the day. And the only alternative is like pitch boss stuff, which might either never drop, or it might drop and you get your first 1 to 22, or it might drop and you boom everything.
Yeah.
So the fact that there is an option to get something guaranteed makes it so that for some players that's desirable. But if you're trying to calculate in, okay, what is the average amount of booms? Commercy also has a system where you can level up your boat and invest the dineros instead of into the accessories. First into the boat to get a stronger boat. And then once you have the stronger boat, then you can make more dineros per day. So depending on how much Star Force you want to end up with, it might be better to just directly buy the pieces. Or if you're trying to go very high, the higher you're trying to go, the more you want to invest in the boat first, which seems like you're losing a lot of dineros. But then because you make so much extra per day, it catches up to where you go at the end, depending on how many dineros it would cost.
Okay, yeah.
So let's say that if you train, the easy math number would be like, let's say it takes you 50 hours to get a large drop familiar. That means, it gives you like 20% more fragments or something, right? Then if you would do, instead you did those 50 hours at fragments, then you have like a head start. But if you look at math, you have like two graphs with like a different coefficient, right? And eventually they will cross each other. So that cross point would be like the break-even point. Maybe you've heard of that?
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter which one of the two that you do, but eventually, the longer you play, the more likely it is that pre-investing in something that you know is going to steepen your curve will make it so that eventually you catch up to it and surpass it in a way that you cannot do without it eventually.
Does that apply to familiars?
Yeah, so if you know that you're going to play for the long term and you're in it for the long term, then the earlier you get your large item drop rate familiar, the longer you'll have to capitalize on it, the more backups you will get, right? And if you get more backups, that means you're less likely to have events where you don't have any drops and you don't have anything to spend on, and then you end up just cubing and kind of locking yourself even more into the current equips, right? Or the less likely you are to find more fragments and have more sessions where, oh, you only find like 3 fragments in half an hour. Like, you decrease the number there as well. Like, the standard deviation stays equally wide, but it moves up so that even on the unluckiest time, you're still luckier than the average luck on lower drop rate, basically.
And
so you're
even more so than not doing it all, obviously. Like, yeah.
Because when you have limited hours, you want to make sure that you get value from those hours, right? Or you have limited amount of bosses that we can do per week, so we want to increase the value per boss per week by increasing our drop rate, which means that we can make a single boss of 1 week kind of count like a boss and a half, or count for 2 bosses worth of drops, because we have more drop rate. And that's why you accelerate your progress, and that's why those really high level characters stay high level and they stay ahead of the curve and they can get those drops that it seems like no one else is getting, is because they are just be able to progress faster, because they're basically multiplying the bosses within the same week by getting more drop rate from it.
And when we are talking about familiars, so like the most important one is the large item drop rate?
Yeah, I would say so.
More than like boss damage, more than the large HP thing.
Yeah, because you can eventually get to enough damage to do all the content in the game without boss damage, because familiars don't exist in Korea. So the content is not so the content is not based around needing the damage from familiars. That's all extra. So it's also but it's also so that you also technically don't need the drop rate from familiars. But if you do have it, you have a huge benefit over the general trajectory and your progression through the game that Korea set out for us, because we have so much more extra drop rate. So you're making the whole game a lot easier for yourself.
Now, now hearing that that Korea doesn't have familiars makes me want to go grind familiars now. Like the fact that it's like they don't have Golax, right?
They don't have Golax, they don't have Commercy, they don't have Familiars, they don't have level 3 Link skills.
How the fuck are they playing so much? How are they playing more than us?
They don't have... well, a lot of it is like a non-reboot. They're always 6 months ahead, so even though... Like, they're always weaker than we will be in 6 months, but they're always kind of stronger because they get the updates faster. So they already have their second mastery node. That's like a whole bunch of damage that we just don't have access to. So that always keeps them ahead in our damage, but if you look at like how long people have been around, in GMS people are just stronger, like way stronger than people in
I
Korea.
mean, I don't know what I would have done with like it's almost like Golax, even though I'm not getting this fucking belt, which please Golax, give me your fucking belt.
Belter,
Jesus Christ, I'm literally on my way to buy one, and I'm gonna feel like a giant idiot. So, and that's probably also ties into our conversation about familiars with like large drop familiar, which now just proves your point.
Again, it combines again. So now you have like a source of drop rate that they don't have, with a source of really strong damage that they also don't have, that we can get to like basically shortcut a bunch of other upgrades that they have to go through. Well,
this is my logic moving on. From now on, my logic in this game is, what does Korea not have that I can take advantage of, and how do I like
well, to a large extent, you also don't know how long that's gonna stick around, right? Because whenever they try to rebalance things,
I remember seeing a post about like removing Golax, and I was like, I'm probably not gonna stick around if something like that happens.
Yeah, you were saying like which familiars, right? So like the next familiars after that is either like healing or boss would be like the good ones, but that's usually once you start making unique familiars. But how do you speed up making unique familiars? By having the large drop rate first to get more familiars to drop, right? So it all just
an epic familiar can give you large drop?
Epic, and at epic it's a much higher chance than at unique, so that's why you just want to make as many epics as you can until you hit large drop, and then make uniques, because then you can hit the boss and the large healing and stuff like that more easily. Large healing is very useful for Hard Will and for Vihilla, and then for some other boss fights, it helps. But mainly for those two, it makes those boss fights also a lot easier than they are in Korea. Like Vihilla is actually a really tough boss fight because you constantly have to
they don't
cleanse.
have large HP. How the fuck are they doing Vila?
Yeah, exactly. There was one or 2 weeks where the healing familiars broke in GMS, and like very experienced strong parties started dying out in Hard Will B2 because they just didn't realize how much they were not playing the mechanics at all. It was kind of interesting, kind of sad, but also kind of interesting to see that people were really reliant on these things.
I mean, I don't want to become too reliant on something that might, get cut in the future. But right now I have, other than like the familiars that you have like on your screen now, I also have a small amount of HP, which is probably fucking nothing, but it's
well, it's not too bad. Like small amount is usually around 5%, and then the neutral one is around 10, and then the large amount is around 15. So if you have 3 small ones. Yeah, so if you put if you don't need the IED and you put 3 small ones together, that's like having 1 large one. What's more like beneficial is like whether it's just for yourself or for the whole team. That makes a big difference because whether you're healing 1 person or 6 people, or if you're going for 3 or 4 people, that cumulative heal is quite a lot for the whole party.
Yeah. And I want to be a good support. I want to heal all of my team always. Okay.
So. Yeah, hopefully that puts familiars in a bit better context. So for that, I have ! familiars if you want to use that in chat. Or I can link it to you here in the Discord. But basically this has like all the details in terms of like the ranking up, like the chances and the cost and the value per card. And then it's got some advice on the bottom as well. I think even if you do get your familiars, it's really nice to get some ID lines on boss mules. It's really valuable there because you also did mention
being bishop, like even being like
so not on bishop you don't need the ID too much there, but in the beginning it's still good because you need like all of the ID you can basically get in the beginning until you have a big legion where you can hit the 40% ID, and until you have superior Golics ready. Those are just 2 really big sources of ID that you're missing. So until then, you kind of just take all the ID that you can get. But once you have those 2, then you can start really, taking away, like WSE lines, lowering maybe a little bit on your Legion, but mostly on like your hyperstats. You can maybe, just cap at 10 and go over that.
Like a familiar with like 30% ID can switch like a line I have on my emblem right now, basically.
Yeah, as long as you don't have other familiars that could be giving you more damage. But so there's a lot of situations where it's like, okay, maybe switching a familiar and then switching your hyperstat a little bit lower and then moving your Legion grid pieces could actually end up being like 0.3% more final damage. Like those maths, those will start existing, but they only happen once you're starting to like cap things out, because unless you're using like your 11 out of your 12 like best link skills, and unless you're filling like unless you're getting to like 8k Legion, and unless you're hyperset wise like you're going into like 266, so going towards 270, then you want to start really like optimizing between mobbing and bossing and making 2 different setups for everything, right? For like your hyperstats.
I never thought that I would get to a point where I am min-maxing, which is an exciting thought.
Yeah, well, that's why it's cool in Korea. I don't know if you saw it, but they have like they added the presets for the inner-ability, and then they also added the character presets, so you can basically just set
I saw that.
one mode, and then just switch everything. That's going to be godsend. It also means that once you...
ugly, but...
Yeah. It's a little, better late than never is Nexon's motto, I think, but... and then here's some advice for familiars, and then on the bottom also there's a list of like the costs for certain familiars that people mathed out. So you can see here the large item drop, familiar points, so that's like 10 points for a common, right? 15 for a rare. This is roughly how many points on average it takes, so it could be way less, could be way more. But for unique, you see it's like almost double. It's like 40% more. And if you want to get some crazy ones, like 2 lines of boss and IED, that you can see how impossible that is. But then you also see, like, if you're trying to get boss to a certain amount, then unique is way better than epic, right? So you can see the difference in the cost there for all of the useful ones. And healing will just It's way more common because there are many more types of healing. So even though they're weighted differently, there's so many of them that you'll just run into a bunch of healing before you hit what you want to hit on other stuff. But even if you just get the large drop, and then you can say like, okay, I'm done with familiars now. I'm gonna do all the other stuff, and then you can always come back later because, money doesn't drop anymore, but you won't get. You will still just get your familiars regular drop rate. Either that, or there's a hyper burn, or there's another character, and you're like, oh, if I play on this character instead, I will get a lot more. I will get cards, and then I can just move them over to my main character, because maybe this character will also not really need the cards. As long as I have increases item drop rate to 50% like you have now, then that's good enough for like a mule or like a side character. And then all of those cards can go to your main and maybe get a few more epics on there later, or a unique or two.
Okay, yeah, that makes way more sense. Being explained that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's familiar marked as like being
Marked as done. Okay, cool. Next screenshot I see here is your VMatrix. We did have a session recently with a bishop who was also trying to like mass pour hit everything into the, I forget the name now, Divine Punishment. Is that what this is?
Yeah, because of the. I hope that you're not gonna say something that makes me regret spending all of my fucking awesomes on that, because I'm just doing what I've been told. I'm just following commands from the Bishop Discord. I'm trying to follow the chart.
The nuance that we had talked about with the last bishop as well is that if you so the one skill, Unreliable Memory, gives you your second infinity, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the description of the skill, you'll see that if you level it up, there's like a lot of lines of like RNG, but basically what it means is that you'll have a higher chance of getting more cooldown reduction on the skill after using it when you use it. So because it used to be called Unreliable Memory, and when you clicked it, it would just use a random skill, which was really unreliable. But now it's still called Unreliable Memory, even though it uses the same skill. But the unreliable part is in the fact that you don't know how much that skill is going to reduce in cooldown. So the higher level it is, the more chance of high cooldown reduction, which means the higher level it is, the more uptime of the skill you use with it, which is infinity and gives you final damage across the board. So the higher your buff duration and the higher the level your Unreliable Memory, the more general uptime of infinity, which helps in reliability for longer boss fights and for more DPM and just so more for solo bossing. Maybe not as huge of a difference for party bossing, because you're more, catering towards when the team is bursting and when you need to support and everything, and then your burst becomes more important, and probably your Divine Punishment is more important, right, for the party bossing. So to make sure that you can hit those benchmarks, and to, hit those blue orbs and maybe green orbs. But for the solo bossing and everything, it's probably fine to work on Divine Punishment first, because otherwise you're also kind of bricked on your 6-job progression, right? Because you kind of increase it.
So what I did, I just figured that I instead of like just halting, like bringing my progression to a halt, I would just like continue as if I already brought Divine Punishment to where they asked me to in the Bishop Discord. So I didn't give any points to Divine, because obviously I can't. It's only 17 on the VMatrix. So what I did instead is I went to the Hexa stat, brought it to level 3, and then just continued on upgrading Angela. It needs to be at 19 at some point. Like, obviously on the way there, a lot of other skills need to get to 9, but none of them are level 25 on my VMatrix. So skill issue.
But you're like saving the points, or you're just bringing them back in line after once you can start leveling them up?
Oh wait, saving the points as in like Hexa Matrix points?
Like fragments, I mean.
Oh yeah, I'm not saving any of them. I'm just like, as soon as I have enough, I'm just putting it on Angela, because not having enough damage frustrates me.
And then you just reprioritize once they become available to upgrade.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's probably fine.
Would you say that it would be smarter from now on to like stop giving my Angela any more points that it already has, and like save them for when Divine Punishment opens?
Do we have?
We only have like 5, what you call it, like experience note stones coming
Yeah,
in like
exactly. Yeah.
3 days from now.
I
And
just
it's
read
only
my mind.
5.
That's what I was.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
was gonna say. But I didn't even finish my sentence, bro. Yeah, that was
yeah,
I was gonna say if you have a lot of EXP notes coming, then that means that you probably want to halt because you're gonna start working on it soon, right?
yeah. But
If you have general, you know,
I don't think 5 gets me to 25.
no, that
But
gets you to like 20 maybe. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I was trying to measure. Like, is there anything like in the near future that I can? I didn't even see like anything on the patch notes. At least not that something that I spotted in terms of like notes on experiences. Or and the fucking idiot that I am, all the notes on that I saved up, I threw on my mules because doing mules is fun apparently, and now I regret it.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, you're gonna end up with bottlenecks always, right? It's never gonna be smooth sailing across the board. You're gonna not have enough arcane power at some point, or you're not gonna have enough sacred power, or you're gonna hit the level but not have enough damage, or you're gonna be able to survive but not have the damage and not be able to kill within the timer. Like there's always gonna be some bottleneck somewhere. But the best thing is just to kind of reprioritize when you see that bottleneck and then go from there. Yeah, you can't like because you mentioned at the beginning like, oh, you could do up to like an hour and a half a day like grinding for money. But I mean, if you're building on boss mules, then you don't have to grind as much for money, and then you can start grinding for different things, right? You can grind specifically for fragments, or you can grind for levels rather than for money, and then that also means that the income will just be able to come from the or you do that once the income can start coming from the bossing mules. There is definitely a level of like efficiency on like where does your time go. But there's, again, like, I think the fun aspect is more important. Like, I'd rather have you log in and, like, log out and be like, oh, I did fun things today, rather than log in and be like, okay, here's my list of 18 things that I need to do today, and then log off like, fuck, I didn't get to do 3 things. I'm such a
That was one of
horrible
my
gamer,
biggest
like, I didn't do all the things.
Exactly. Yeah. I really, really wanted to avoid that this time around because I get stuck in this feedback loop. The last time I played and tried to take MapleStory semi seriously, and I was like, yeah, daily story is not for me. But now it's kind of different. It's I don't know why, but it's more fun. Maybe it's Bishop, but yeah. But
It
still,
could be being older a little bit, or a little bit more perspective, because it's very easy to just fall into that trap, because the game is designed to try to get you to play 24 hours a day. So always just knowing that, being like, okay, there's a thing I can do, but do I want to and do I need to? If it's something you need to and you want to, then you always do it. If you want to do it, but you don't necessarily need to, then you do it when you have the time for it. If you need to do it, but you don't want to, only do it when you feel like it. And if you don't want to and you don't need to, then just never do it. So as long as you can categorize it in some of those boxes and you can prioritize it accordingly. So usually one of my things is that if there's a thing where I notice that I always do it very last minute, I just always think about it like, do I really need to be doing this? Like, would it be okay to drop this? And if it's okay to drop it, then I just drop it. And or it's like really important, then I just do it first thing in the morning when I still have like energy and good energy, good enough time. And then I make sure that it's done, and then I do all the other things that are more fun as like a reward after that. So it's totally fine to like reassess like where your account is, like, okay, this thing would be nice for this character, but if you're min-maxing in an individual system, you can never be min-maxing in the whole system, right? Like, you can min-max getting the most boss crystals on an individual character, but that means you're not min-maxing the boss crystal for your account already. So you always have to make choices in how wide of a scope do you take within which you are operating.
That's what I was like. The way I was saying it is that like before like the news that came out about like the crystal bosses, that I don't even know if it's gonna happen or not, like the nerfs for the prices and everything. Before that came out and before the whole crystal nerf scare, I was like, I'm probably building like a pyramid, which is so like I used the there was this Sunday Terra Burner. It's a Terra Burner, right? Where you get like a Fafnir set and everything. So I used that. Opened the Shadow Mule. Like I used as soon as I saw that like the mini game doesn't really give like doesn't really benefit my main anymore, I was like, okay, I'm gonna open a Dawn Warrior because Dawn Warrior is like the strongest class, and it's like it doesn't take as much. Yeah, so.
But it's how to get
so
you, right? Because you're trying to get the value because there's so much value, and then they just basically decide this is how many characters you're gonna make and that you're gonna play.
yeah.
So as long as you're okay with like up to a certain extent being like this is how much I'm playing, but you never have to be. You want to make sure that you're not like doing like fallacious sunk costs, for example, where it's like, well, this character is already this strong, so now I have to play it every week, or I have access to this boss, so now I have to do it every week. Because once you're in that mindset, then they've done their job. Now they've made you force yourself to do it, and now they don't even have to do it anymore. They just put the opportunity in front of you, but you're the one who's going to be mad at yourself for doing it instead of being mad at them for basically psychologically forcing you to do it, right? It's always they're a product and they're trying to be consumed as much as possible. Like that's their job, and it's your job to draw your own lines in the sand of like, this is where it's fun, this is where it's not fun, this is the amount of not fun I'm willing to do because it'll lead me to being able to do more fun stuff down the road, and this is the stuff that I don't see either the benefit for me or it's just too unfun for how much benefit it's going to give, so I'm just not going to play that game. That's ultimately, but some of the things you can't know, especially if it's on your first playthrough and you're getting into new territory where you haven't been yet. Some of the stuff you don't know unless you're like half in it and you're like, but yeah, some decisions will be easy and be like, I could just drop this, and some decisions will be hard because you've already gone halfway and you think like it would be easier to continue, but ultimately you have to choose for like your own well-being and your own mental health there to make sure that you still feel like it's fun to log in, it's fun to play, and you're having a good time. Overall, most of the time, like you have to do chores, but you get to live on your own. You have a lot of benefits there, right? Like, everything comes with some responsibilities, but it's still a video game, so hopefully you're enjoying your time,
Yeah, the way I say it right now is that like I started having more fun on my mules because it's like challenges that I know are like doable, like soloing normal Lotus and Damien and Damien and Lotus on my Dawn Warrior, and it was like it felt good, even though it's quote unquote only normal Lotus and Damien, more so than like doing like being able to barely scratch blue ball on like a C10 boss,
Yeah.
Because it became such a frustrating like experience. It took all the fun from bossing. I can't even concentrate on like helping others, spawning in like my
you're focusing on doing your own damage and
exactly, and that became very frustrating on my main. And then I was like, oh, I can just experience like beating bosses for the first time again on my mules, which is nice. So yeah, that's the fun I found. It's just that, like you said, it's another bottleneck because now I'm like how you say it, like I'm all the Mon-Suns that I get, and like some of the arcane symbols that were like a part of like the daily gifts of the identities I brought to my Dawn Warrior and to my Paladin. So, and then I'm like, and then I wonder like why my bishop feels so like kind of left behind, but yeah,
that's the other thing, is that with an event like this, your main, because was the bishop your hyperburn?
Yeah,
so you're just like skyrocketing in level, right? So everything else, they give you the extra symbols and all that stuff. That it's not just because they want to give you more stuff, but it's just so that you don't feel too bad with your level. Because if you give someone a whole bunch of level but nothing else to go with it, then there's a big disconnect in what you can do and what the game is saying that you should be kind of able to do and what you can physically do with your character, because you haven't been playing for enough hours or enough
so
days.
That's exactly right? Like the wall that I just hit, because I didn't realize that before I started like giving my mules things that now
you thought I'm high level, so I can do things, so they can get more of the resources.
Yeah,
but,
I was like, all my items are legendary. I guess I don't need arcane symbols and sacred coupons as much. I'm just gonna, But so but I like it makes more sense now thinking about it this way, with my main, and it's just that I'm still scared of like there's always this like not gray area, how you say it, like the unknown, if like
Yeah.
they're gonna nerf, and then all my all the work I put into the mules is just gonna like.
Yeah, so if
And
you make sure that, like, in general, you're moving in the direction where you want to go, and that you're, at least, like, your short and your medium-term goals and terms that you're setting is stuff that facilitates going in that direction, but that's mostly focused on enjoying your time, you'll be way more flexible than other people when things radically change. Because your emotional well-being is not going to be dependent on whether how long it takes to get to your goal is going to change, but what's going to it's not just not going to affect that. For other people it is, right? Because for a lot of people their purpose is just getting there fast. Like, that's the only thing that determines it. And then any kind of obstacle will completely throw you off course. Either you have to completely reinvest everything that you've already been planning, or it's going to take twice as long and therefore not be worth it for you anymore. And then you get very emotionally attached to the things. And it might be the thing that you're noticing on, like, how it's different now than last time is that you might have done a little bit more of emotional detachment from, like, the outcome of things, which makes it easier to kind of, like, roll with the punches and be more flexible in terms of what you do and when you do it, and just not be as affected by, like, oh, you know, that just changed. Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's like, not, what I was thinking, like, one of the things I was thinking about is, like, if there's going to be, like, a meso cap, like, daily meso cap, I'm like, yeah, but I like bossing more anyways, so, like, I don't mind if, like, bossing would become the main source of income instead. So it's like, that's at least on my end.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, for most people already is right now, but like, I probably make, I don't know, a few bill a week from Mezzo, but, like, bossing is over 20, so it's, for me, it's definitely
and it's more
way
fun
more
for me. I know. It's like, I'm saying, like, some of my friends have, like, mules that can go, like, up to fucking, you know, like, solo hard Lotus, but they're like, but I can't be bothered, so I'm just joining a struggle or something. And I'm like, how? Like, you have a character that's strong enough to do something like that, and you don't, you know,
When
you don't.
well, maybe I could shed some light on that. When you have, like, one or two of them, it would make sense. But once you have, like, 8 of them that could do it, you get to a point where it's like, well, if I do it on one character, now you don't really have a good reason to not do it on all of them. And now it's if it's like, you know, 20 minutes or 25 minutes that you can kill Hard Lotus. First of all, long Hard Lotus fights are cancerous because there's just so much stuff that can go wrong.
Yes.
Which means every now and then you'll die out and you have to rerun. If it's 20 minutes per character, you can do like 8 of them. That's like 160 minutes a week at least of being in there. If you add all the prep, add making sure that you AFK, that you have the G skills, whatever. You get to a point where it's like, either I do it on all of them or I don't do it at all. And you might eventually get to a point where, you know, like the endgame people, they build like 10 to 12 Hard Lotus mules so that they can have more destroyed, like, a damaged Black Hearts, so they can keep their set bonus for pitch stop, you know, stuff like that. That's like standard to a certain point. But just because you can do a boss doesn't mean that you should feel like you can do it. Have to do it, and also not every single week. You know, if there's some time left in the week and you're like, oh, I want to do like a challenge and this character can probably do it, but for me at least, like, doing the challenge the first time is really exciting, but then once I know I can do it and once I know how long it takes, depending on how long that is, that will determine whether I do it again, like weekly, or I never do it again, or like I duo it with someone. I would probably not join a 6-man for like Hard Lotus or Hard Damien, because I don't see a lot of value in that. I would either just solo normal really, really quickly, or try to like duo or maybe trio like Hard Lotus, Hard Damien, so that you still have a decent chance of getting one of the drops. But everyone has a different barrier there, so I think it's good to understand and also like to respect where people's barriers are there. Because a lot of times I'll be on a mule and be like, oh, why are you doing normal Lotus? Why aren't you doing hard? It's like, well, I'm already doing 5 Hard Lotuses and Hard Damons every single week. If I add this one, there's like 4 other characters that are equally strong. Then I'd be doing 9 every week. I already feel like I'm spending too much time on like weeklies and crystals and that stuff. So if I add this, I'd be okay adding that, but only once I make a huge upgrade on this character to make sure that the runs are faster. So, but if someone has 2 characters, then yeah, you run it every week. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's like probably a matter of like, I don't have it right now, but when I will have it, I will obviously understand them more. It's like I can't even solo Lotus, like Hard Lotus on my main now, and like
you have more options.
Yeah, and like thinking of the prospect of like someone having a mule that can do something that my main can't, and they choose not to, and it's like, yeah, but then it makes sense when you think of like...
It feels like a luxury problem. Because for
Yeah.
you, it's something you don't have access to yet. But then once you have access to a lot of it, I mean, it's like rich people buying something, and then someone who's poor is like, well, why is it a problem? Like, you have so much money, like, just buy whatever you want. But it's like, well, what they want to buy is like a private jet. So it's like it's like on a different level of like
different
what kind
scale.
of different scale exactly. And a different amount of things that become an option. And when more things become an option, now you have more comparative advantages between things, right? And that goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like, when you're still building up your link skills, you just equip every link skill you get. You don't really have to think about it. But once you have like 15 or 16 available, now you have to think like, well, which one is better? And now you have to start building presets between mobbing and bossing and everything. But until you get to that point, it's like, well, why aren't you equipping this link skill? It gives damage. But it's like, well, yeah, but these other ones all give more. Yeah.
Yeah, that also helps. It makes more sense this way. So
yeah, I just put it into context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you missing anything here? You got 4 boost nodes. Your speed infusion, your blink, your ban. No Hero's Will yet. Hero's Will might get more useful as you go. I don't know how much bishops rely on it, but especially once you get into like C10 stuff more and Black Mage eventually. The Hero's Will is like a cleanse, right? So if you use it preemptively...
I have Hero's Will like for my own, like...
Yeah,
like I have...
Explorer's Will or whatever the hell it's called, right?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, but you have 2 of them.
I can get 2 of them.
Yeah, so you can use the... Yeah, you can use the Erdal one and your regular one, and then by leveling up the Erdal one, the cooldown also goes down. So whenever one is on cooldown, you can use the other one, so you have something more reliable to block a stun or to block... you're like, there's 2 things coming, and then one thing is going to stun you and the other thing is going to kill you. Then you can just press the button and then dodge the thing that's going to kill you and just take the thing that's going to stun you and then make sure that that doesn't stun you. You can prevent prevent the CC from happening. Yeah.
How the fuck did I not use Hero's Will?
For the longest time, you just don't need it. Like, the bosses are just like, oh, if the boss is too hard, just come back in like 3 days and you'll blow it up because of how quickly you progress.
Yeah, it's like I'm getting flashbacks to Chaos Gloom and like in fear mode. I'm like I'm literally in fear. I'm literally fighting for my life.
Like, yeah, they made Gloom easier now, but that skill is really nice. For example, like, you see those hands, you just press that button and just walk through those hands, and you won't get reverse keyed or you won't get
Oh my god, how the did I think about this? Yeah.
But it has a long cooldown, so it's like an iframe where, you know, in the beginning of a boss fight, you feel like I should need 16 iframes because I'm dying to everything. But then you learn timing, you learn positioning, and then there's only like a few situations where you're like, okay, now it's like 99% I'm dead, so now I have to iframe. And then you always have your iframe available because you're holding it for those situations, right? And the same thing will happen with the will skill.
Yeah, also I have like ethereal form, and I have like the shell, the magic shell, and I have so many solutions and like the doors, and so I don't
shell
know
cleanse.
I don't know how I passed on Hero's Will, but it's not even keybind. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah.
Yeah, you do want to find a place that's like close enough that you can kind of like reaction press them, because it's not quite an iframe, but it's kind of like it's a similar kind of use. So I have them on 1 and 2, but I don't know if that's too far or if that's already something.
I'm like, my ethereal form is on F2. I'm just gonna put it on like F3. I had Sharp Eyes there, but like Sharp Eyes is my auto buff, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, if you probably have your hand a little bit higher on the keyboard than I do. Or you have a smaller keyboard. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, if people say like you need it on this key or that should be on that key, it's like everyone has different size hands. Everyone has different shaped keyboards. Like, you can't just make sweeping statements like that. You're gonna...
my brain right now is very used to like the huge amount of skills that Bishop holds. But
that's like, well, a lot of stuff is also common in the 5th job. So once you get other characters, all boss wheels and stuff like that, if you put the same skill in the same keys, you can also switch between characters very quickly. Or what I have, like, one key that always has like, something that's like a 10 to 12 second AoE that's always on spacebar, for example. Or something that has like a stance switch that's always on Q for me, where it's like easy for me to get to. But whatever button like that works for you for a certain function, or certain buffs, or where a certain macro goes, or where the toggles go. As long as it's always in a similar position, you can switch between characters really quickly. And as you build up your account more and go to more boss mules and everything, that'll help you save a lot of time.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, like maybe like I didn't even think about it. But like for example, like Epic Adventure, that like every class has like a different type of. I put
almost
like, on
everyone,
the same
yeah.
key.
Almost everyone, yeah.
So yeah, I put it on the same key. I didn't even think about it. It came like natural. But yeah, I should probably take note of it and like do the same for other skills.
What you'll notice is that if you don't do it, you'll just fat finger wrong skills.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask me where are all my skills on my arc, I don't really know. But if I go into an arc that has different keys, I'll start pressing the wrong buttons, and then I'll be able to piece together what I want where, because my fingers will know.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I always like I put terms and condition on like different key on every character, and I'm like,
yeah.
Wait.
And then you have to look at your keyboard, or you have to like, you have to press 3 different exactly. But if you put it on the same one, so for terms and condition for me, for example, I put it on. It's on 3, I think on 3 or on 4, one of the two. On 3, I think. So that's like, that's like where my bursty things are, is like 3 and 4. And then that's the last things I usually press before I burst. That or a ring or something, you know? Like those are the ones, the longer bursts you press before the bind, and then you press the last 2 and then bind kind of thing, or bind and then those 2 like really close together.
Yeah, something I didn't take into consideration is like putting, which is probably something I'm gonna do afterwards, like after this call. I'm gonna put like burst skills and buffs on like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, because it's like the you know, it's like it's in order, and it's
you want to put them in order how long they last, or when you want to press them to make sure that they're all up around the same time. Yeah, that's what I did for my mom, because my mom had like she basically used the basic layout and then put all of her keys like around it, so it was horrible. Like she would be using like Shift, Control, Alt.
She plays
and then
MapleStory?
Yeah, and then like F11 through F12 or something, and then that would be her skill, so it was impossible. So we did
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
You just referenced your mom as like that's so fucking dope.
Well, it's because sometimes it's really cool to look at what my mom is doing sometimes, because there's some very basic things that I just take for granted that everything else it's like a house of cards, but it's like one of the bottom dominoes, and I don't even realize it, and everything can start crumbling down if you don't have that one. So like where you put your keys and everything. So for my mom, like for her Bowmaster, we went over like, okay, what is 2-minute cooldown? Like you put those next to each other, and then what is like 90-second cooldown? Put those next to each other, and like what is the order that you're gonna press things in, and then it just logically means that also, because she always has to look at her keyboard because she never learned to type like blindly because she didn't grow up with computers, right? And then but it's more like if you know where the first keys are, you always know where the next one is, because it's just the next one over, and then she can look at her screen faster and she can respond. Like if Will is doing a tornado and she's looking at her keyboard to see which buffs she has to press, she's just dead every time. But this just made her able to respond faster, and then that takes frustration away, because the extra frustration and dying leads to tilting. Tilting leads to worse concentration, that leads to even more dying, right? And then it just the whole thing would just fall apart.
You just mentioned your mom and the boss Will from the game MapleStory in the same. I can't get. This is so fucking dope. I'm sorry, it's so cool.
Yeah.
What's the highest boss she cleared?
Our party's doing like we usually do like Hard Lucid, Hard Will, and then like Sea Slime, and we tried Gloom, but she just died to literally everything. But if we practice that a little bit, she'll get better at it for sure.
So fucking cool. Holy shit.
She could probably do Sea Gloom. Well, she has 2 characters over level 280, so because she just keeps grinding. So she can definitely, she has the damage and everything on the characters. It's really just like mechanical skill is bad. And then if there's a lot of people in the Discord yelling at the same time, she gets like disorganized on like what she needs to do, and then she panics, and then everything goes bad. So people joke about getting her to Black Mage, but that's just
first mom Black Mage clear.
That would be such a shit show. Yeah, I think one of the things I'm considering, but I'll have to set up a time for her with it to do it, is to coach her like through soloing Hard Lucid and Hard Will, because she definitely like damage wise and everything should be able to do it. But it'd be better if it's just me and her and no one else also saying some stuff, because sometimes it's like friends hanging out or people that we're carrying, right? And people are just joking about stuff during the boss fight, because everyone, after a while, you just get to a point where you can just subconsciously just do the boss fight, or you die once or twice, like you don't care, right? But if my mom ever goes into that mode, she'll just like start dying out, even on a boss she's already done for like a year, because a lot of times she's just like winging it. And still to this day, like we've been doing a hard lucid hard will for like 2 years now, but every single time almost every week, we're like, mom was like, oh, is that how it works? And it's like, yeah, it'd be like logical for everyone else to put it together, but somehow she hasn't done it yet. And then it's like, I keep forgetting that there's just like still so much she doesn't know, and a bunch of stuff she just, if it works, then she keeps doing it like that. She doesn't really wonder how it actually works or why that went well. She'll just keep doing the same thing. But
are you telling me that there's a parallel universe where I come to my mom and I ask her, Mom, do you wanna run hard will? That's a fucking thing. That's insane.
Well, no, we have a set time in the week tomorrow where we all show up in the Discord, and she manages to join the right Discord, and her microphone is working. And
oh my god!
And she talks shit about me being late, and you know.
That's one of the best things I've heard in a while. Yeah. Okay.
Now I got her to the fact that now we do we do Ursus together, and then we do Monster Park. We used to always do the symbol dailies and everything together, which it used to be pretty funny, because in Grandis you could, party, so we do all the symbol dailies really quickly in like the big maps. But when they made them instants, you can't party anymore, so we, now that kind of broke up that party. But in the past, we would always like, we go to the next map, and then sometimes there'd be someone in the map. And as soon as someone is in the map, you see someone in the map, so we just CC to the next map. And sometimes we'd be like almost done with the daily, and I'm like, "Where's Mom?" And then someone would message me like, "Someone in your guild is chaosing me." And I go back to the channel, and Mom is just like rotating the map and just killing it, and just not even looking. And she doesn't see that instead of 4 party members that she's doing it with every day, there's like one other dude like talking to her, like asking her what she's doing, and she's just rotating.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's my mom. She's
like, sorry, it's like she's my 70-year-old mom who just doesn't read chat, and and then he's like, oh, okay, so, okay, no worries.
That's so fucking dope. Is oh yes, wait.
No, go for it.
I wanted to ask if the instanced map are gonna go away with the event.
So we don't know that for sure. So in Korea they wanted to, but didn't, I think. For GMS, they already, like for non-reboot, sorry, they already have taken them away, because they were glitching the totems and giving people more spawn. Plus nobody plays there, so they weren't necessary really. But the reason was just because in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of people like actively grinding for fragments, right? And they wanted to make sure that everyone had a map, and this is an easy way to just double the amount of maps available.
I mean, I love that. I love the idea of instance,
Yeah, they should be able to just... what they'll do is analyze the data in terms of like how full were the maps, and what is the amount of people that we expect to, kind of taper off, because when you're going outside of the winter and the summer events, the amount of people playing at the same time always goes down a little bit. But also they kept the 40 channels, so yeah, we'll have to see. Based on their data, they'll either get rid of it or they'll keep it for a bit more. We'll just wait. Yeah.
Okay. Before moving on to the next section, is there a bathroom break in the class?
You can go real quick if you want to. Yeah, we're already over an hour, so.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, it's coming to like a wrap up after I come back, or?
You probably have like 15 to 20 minutes left.
Okay, awesome. So I'll be back as soon as I can.
Sure thing. Yeah, I just take that for granted though, like bossing with my mom. But yeah, a lot of people. There's always like someone in chat who's like, "Wait, here's Mom plays," and then you like do !mom, and then. They see that like 9.3k Legion and 2 level 280s, and they're like, what the? What's his Legion? 6'8". Oh, 6'5", 8'8". Which is pretty good. I mean, if your hyper burn is like 266, and that's like your highest level character, you got like 1 or 2 boss mules. Being over 6k is definitely solid. 190 million raid power also seems pretty good. Oh, now I can switch to a different character, get my G skills back. Hee hee hee. $247 coins. Hey, he's using them. Was I saying? I gave my mom to use an iPad. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. No time wasted.
All right, good job. I was just checking if my character can get G skills off cooldown or something. Yeah, somebody in chat was saying that they can't even get their mom to use an iPad, so it's impressive.
Yeah, that's also something I was saying of. Like, my mom can barely, like, she doesn't know how to navigate through her like iPhone, right? Which I don't blame her, right? I was fucking.
Yeah,
but
I hate iPhones, man.
but
My mom
yeah,
has iPhone too, and it's a nightmare.
to think that, like, instead of like helping my mom, like, navigate through iPhone, I can help her with like how like to grind as efficient as possible in Cernium is a fucking insane idea.
Yeah, it was a lot of it was, I usually don't bother with like training and with the grinding, but for my mom it's more like the bossing is a huge bottleneck for her, and then she would get to the point like what you were talking about, right, where you have like everything 17 stars safeguarded and like really good potential, and then it's like, and now she's just stuck, and it's like, oh, there'd be an event coming, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing for 5-10-15? And she's like, I don't know. Like, she always says, I don't know. That's always like her default response. And then I look at her account, and it's like, okay. And then she'll have like 80 bill or something saved up, and then, but she has 0 backups, so she can't do anything. And it's like, yeah, like I would give you a lot of advice, but you have to, and then it's like 2 days before the event or the day of the event, then she asks for help, and it's like, okay. So I have to like, okay, just let her, and I'd be like, okay, well, best thing is for the next event, you want to be working on this, this, and this on this character, right? So that means for the next event, you do Gollux, you do Commercy, and you do like these 3 weekly bosses, like 3-door, for example, right? To have backups for CRA, because she won't be doing 3-door on like a level 260 or something, even though like that should be like a 2-minute thing and easy money, but. So, okay, then she starts doing that, and then next event, and then and then she makes the upgrades, or she does something else, or sometimes she does something weird, and then have to be flexible and work around that. And then sometimes it'd be like, she'll be like, oh, I have 8,000 dineros, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I forgot to say that you can stop doing those at a certain point as well, right? So she'll just be doing, so be like, okay, this is a daily, this is good, and then she'll just do it every day, and then she'll have a character with like 8,000, and be like, okay, this is, okay, oh, this is time that you don't have to spend there, right? So it's a constant like readjustment and everything, but she's logging in, she enjoys events a lot, and the events are now always back to back to back, so there's always big events going on, and she just like, not like grinding or something, but it's just being busy and just doing something. A lot of people try to, I often like compare it to people do like speed runs, where they'll be like, oh, they did this thing in like 6 minutes or something. They'd be like, okay, but what about like the 3,000 hours they prepared to do it in 6 minutes, right? Yeah. Because my mom will be the person who's spending those 3,000 hours that other people figure out on how to get to level 0 to 220 the fastest. People spend that time getting to 0 to level 220. So in the time you get one of their faster, she'll have like 18 of the characters done and be like, she's very inefficient within the time that she spends, but she spends all of her time. So it ends up evening out or being more, Yeah, she didn't like the Abyssal event because of the AFKing and then
that's
well, the problem with that is the time zones, because if she wants to go to sleep at a normal time, if she can't set up the Abyssal if she reaches her max time. And then she can only set up the next day, and then it runs out of time again before she wakes up, and then she can't set it up before she goes to sleep again. So you can really only do it every other day, unless the time is long enough that you wake up within the time that you set it up, basically. But that's just a time zone thing. In NA, you guys don't have that problem.
I was not planning on waking up in the middle of the night just to claim reputation. So I was just like, I'm gonna be AFK. Like, what do you need to be like level 220, like Master 3, right?
Master 3, 1 Manon kill and 220 levels. That's like
okay.
3. Yeah, for the biggest piece, right? But there are like smaller pieces as well that are still nice.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm chilling. So I'm good. Okay.
Okay. Next one is Legion. I don't know if you have any questions on Legion.
Just like if I think I'm getting to like a point where it's now starting to get all my 140s to 200, and I'm kind of like just waiting for food stall every week
Yep.
yeah, that's pretty much what like, because grinding on some of these fucking characters sucks.
Because they're also not funded, right? So they're just really weak.
They're not funded.
And you
Hayato, though
and a
it's
fun.
not fun. I don't care. It's not
Yeah.
a fucking samurai game. It's fucking. I'm sorry for all the fucking Hayato mains on the. You're gonna roast me for this and say that after 200 it gets worth it. Yeah, try to get him to 200. What the fuck? It's one of. It's like
Yep.
it's almost worse than Mercedes. And that's
Yeah, Mercedes was cleaned up a lot. Like, they made it a lot stronger early. Used to be a lot weaker and harder to play properly. They definitely... And that's one of the problems, kind of. Like, Hayato did get a few buffs, but it's not a KMS class. So all of the changes that they get to kind of like smoothen out their progression, it always comes late.
Yeah,
that's one of the downsides.
So yeah, like I'm leveling Hayato now to 200 for the crit damage. I almost brought all of my characters that give like int Legion bonus to 200. That was like my second. Just a few of them left still, but yeah. So no real questions about Legion. Just yeah, what I'm doing right now with Legion is mostly using food store and parking everything at like 140 when I open a new character. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of looking which events are coming, and then because there's more events coming that'll also be really good for leveling your Legion. So 6 to 8k is really going to be settled between EXP events, EXP like tickets, and like extreme growth potions and stuff like that. Getting yourself to 8k Legion is going to be free. It's just patience, basically. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like, so what you're saying is basically like from now on, the way I progress is how I did it like right now, like with food store, coupons and stuff like that. That's the way to go to 8k?
That'll get you to 8k for sure, yeah. And then once you get level 200s and you kind of try out the 6th job and see if it's any fun, and if it's not, then it's whatever, and if it is fun, then maybe you slowly bring it up to being a boss mule, essentially.
I already know that I'm burning a Buccaneer next. So
That's
I
solid,
parked it
yeah.
on 202, and I'm not touching it, but yeah.
Gotcha, yeah. It's an easy 260. I said solid, yeah. I have it at 250. It's a very solid class, for sure. And very similar in a way to Bishop in a sense that it's like very high crit, very high IED, so you don't need to worry about those stats, so you can worry about other stuff.
And also burst is fucking... It's just so satisfying using Lord of the Deep, I'm sorry.
Yep. So satisfying, yep. Okay. Are you familiar with the dailies and the progression grid? These two?
I am seeing them now.
Okay. So, again, like early on, it's going to be a little bit all over the place because of how quickly you level, right? So it's going to be hard to predict exactly where you want to be. But essentially, with this command, I try to keep kind of track of where you want to spend your time to make sure that you're not too inefficient with your time. So you can kind of choose to be above with the things that you like and a little bit below with the things that you don't like. But this will also let you know what above or below means in the first place. And if you don't know how far you need to go before it gets inefficient, then you can always pull back to this on like how much do you upgrade something, like how, you know, how good of a flame do you need, like how much total stat are you looking for. And then this connects to the dailies command, where based on your level, as long as you are somewhat not following, but you're like falling in these metrics, then you can use the dailies command to see what kind of content I think is useful to do around your time and is like high priority, and which things are low priority and you don't really have to do. And then that way you have some kind of idea as well as like, oh, I'm trying to do this boss. Oh, I can't kill it at all. Like, is there something wrong with me? Well, first of all, it could be just that you need more practice. It could be that one of these numbers is like really low compared to where it needs to be. Or it could just be that, you know, maybe your party sucks and your party is griefing you. Because the further you get in the game, the more everyone has to be... You have tests, right? Literally, and you have to know the tests. And if you don't, you could ruin the run for everyone. So that happens more and more the further you get into the game. So it could literally be like other people holding you back. It's not like League of Legends where it's like the only reason I'm not advancing is because everyone else is bad, but I'm really good. It can actually be, you can actually just get griefed by your party, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in wheel, I especially felt that early on in like normal wheel runs before moving. Yeah, it's
so many opportunities to just mess up for the team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a while, it just becomes second nature and you complete it. But it takes a little bit of building up to do. But it's good to do all of the bosses incrementally. That's also linked here in the other tab here for the dailies, where I can gauge the bossing experience or whether or not it helps you with later bosses that are coming to be able to do those bosses more easily. Because some bosses are just whatever, you just have to like press 2 buttons, or you just have like some really weird mechanic. Like learning how to like hit the rocks in slime doesn't really help you with any other boss fight after that. But learning how to fight Will, learning how to look at what direction is he facing, how long is his range, what is his attack pattern, and then combining that with dodging other things. It's a really good base foundational mechanics to have, because then harder bosses later will feel a lot easier to kill, because your fingers will already know like, how do I approach this, or you'll be able to gauge distance and be able to gauge like a rhythm of attacks faster, and that'll just help you focus more on the really, really dangerous things. And then, not use your iframes essentially where you don't need to, and then use them where you do need to. So yeah, this is more general, like keeping track stuff, and could also give you like midterm and long-term goals on like how long would something really take, and around what level is certain content like expected of me to do. So that you also know if you're maybe not trying to go a little bit too fast. Because in the past you could, right? If you're a support, you could just go as fast as you can. You have the basics, the mechanics of the boss. You can do the hardest bosses that your level will allow you to, and then you can start getting drops way above your level, and then you can skip a whole bunch of upgrade paths and then save a whole lot of money that way. But now, because of the implementation of the drop, the minimum damage requirement and everything for the carry, or it will count as a carry rather.
What a wonderful life it could have been.
Yeah, you have to be, and at the same time, everyone else gets a lot of extra damage from 6 jobs, so that also made it harder at the same time.
Yeah, the boss starts, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm green, and then everyone starts popping Origin, and I'm like,
and blue red,
I'm fucked.
Yeah, I thought there was like 2 ways that they could have kind of gone around it. One was actually having a system that checks how much damage you add versus how much damage you're physically doing. If that existed, Bishop would be like number 1 at the list all the time, if you know at least a little bit what you're doing.
It's like, why don't they implement like something that takes into consideration the damage you give, like healing and I don't know, fucking support.
I imagine it's not. I imagine it's kind of complex, of course, because you have like 6 characters that are all giving various buffs to each other at any given time. But every single damage would have to be registered based on a calculation. So you should be able to pool from every number of damage that gets dealt how much is coming from which source at any given time, I would think. Or the second thing would be to have slightly different numbers depending on the party size. Because the 5%, makes total sense for a 2-man party. It makes total sense for a 3-man party and for a 4-man party. But if you're looking at a support for a 5 and a 6-man party, maybe that number would only have to be like 1.5% to 2% or something, right? If you can't account for that damage that they're bringing, and you only can go by the damage that they're dealing, then at least have like different numbers so that to kind of account for that. But it doesn't seem like they wanted to do that at all.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to be stronger.
Yeah, but again, better mechanics, better timing, and better insight of the boss will give you more damage without having to be stronger.
Yeah.
So, and having a little bit of stronger and those things at the same time, those amplify your progress a lot, especially if other people aren't actively working on that because they don't have to, because they already have the damage, so they don't have to think in that way. You can make it so that you can keep up more easily than what it seems like now. Dailies, weeklies, progression in general. Yes. I noticed also open the the links one, and there were like 11 people already in here. So there's like some people who have this open. They're probably working on their Legion right now, trying to increase their
They have it
stats.
open in the background.
Yeah, exactly. They've got it like not hotkeyed. What's the thing when you have like it's bookmarked or something? Yes, for your stats themselves, so your ID visually is a little bit lower, but you have your debuffs, right? Which is, what is it, 40%?
Yeah, it's 44 Angelic Wrath, I think. It's
Oh yeah, because of decent combat orders, I guess.
it's 44, yeah.
Yeah. And you're familiar with the calculations for ID, how that maths out?
Not exactly, but I just figured that like so after that in this particular picture it's without my familiars out, which is like missing 30. With them it's I don't have any juice left, any like familiar juice left, but it comes to like around 92, 91.7,
91 point something, yeah. Yeah, and then the 44% on top of that, so you end up with like 95 and a little bit functionally. So that's the functional number here that you want to like compare here to see if you're on track. So that means if you're way higher than this, that means that you can get rid of some IED and you can start moving it around. And if you're below it, quite a bit below it, that means that you have to add something, because if you don't, you're just losing efficiency on everything. Because IED is basically armor penetration for bosses.
Yeah.
So if you have all the armor penetration in the world, then you do more damage, but if it goes at the expense of other sources of damage, you might lose efficiency there. And if you don't have enough armor penetration, you can build more damage, but then it doesn't go through to the boss. So it's always about a balance between how much you have access to and how much is required for the boss that you're fighting. Because harder bosses have more armor, so then you just need more armor penetration. And when it comes to the calculation, the easy way to explain it is that just whichever... Are you more visual or are you more numbers? You're probably more visual,
please.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so basically you have two characters who are facing each other, right? They're standing a certain distance apart and they're facing each other. One is you, one is the boss. The distance between you is the boss's armor, and the IED, every source of IED, is that percentage of the distance between you that you cover towards the boss. And the distance that is left between you is the final damage reduction based on IED.
Does every boss have a point where you just completely you completely close this gap and like his armor penetration doesn't come to like calculation at all? Like where it's like...
that means that you would have to have 100%. And because you always take that percentage of the distance that's left between you, that means that one of your sources would have to be 100%. Otherwise, all you can do is approach 100%.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're at 90% and you add a 10% line, you go to 91. If you're at 91 and you add 10%, you go to 91.9. If you add 10%, you go to 92.89.
No, yeah, but I mean like so let's say you need like 90% ID to deal like a good amount of damage to Hard Magnus, for example. Is there a certain ID amount where it's like his armor just doesn't
100? Like only at 100.
100? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's the percentage that you end up with, your functional percentage, that's the percent of the armor that you ignore. So if you want to ignore all the armor, you need 100%. So some characters have skills that ignore 100%. So that means that even if they have no IED in their stat, when it was 0, then that skill will still ignore all the armor, because that skill by itself already ignores all of it. So they don't need extra. But then if you don't have extra, then all your other skills will basically hit no damage. So then all of your damage is dependent on just one skill. So that's not a good balance to have, right? But like Dual Blade, for example, is a nice boss mule because all of the skills that do damage all have built in at least 30%, but some have an extra 20%, or 50%, or 100%. So you can get away with a lot less IED and still confirm more damage on the boss. So those are good for like early game funding for people who don't... Dual Blade, yeah. For classes who don't have a lot of... like a big Legion, like maybe they can't get the 40% IED from the Legion block, right? Maybe they don't have too many link skills. So they need more damage on their character to overcome the loss of the IED. But then if you have a character with a lot of critical rate and a lot of IED early on, you get basically link skills and stuff for free. So every single meso or every single node you spend on funding your character gets multiplied by the other damage immediately. So early game is much more efficient to spend money on. You'll see more damage return for that.
Hmm.
And then once you have like a 9k Legion, then every character is kind of like that, because you could just, max crit, max IED,
Yeah.
max boss damage, max crit damage immediately. So
Yeah.
now they all come a lot closer together, and that difference isn't there anymore.
Hmm.
That's kind of the idea behind it. So, the Spirit Golix is still common, that extra IED. But we'll look at your equips and kind of see in the immediate term what we need to work on there. Did you have specific equip questions?
Just things like do I push like my pop mark to legendary even though it's on unique 9/9, stuff like that. So, and also like, do I keep pushing my secondary beyond lines of attack because the third one is like useless?
We keep pushing your secondary beyond.
So like my second, like
Oh, that's a nice emblem.
Oh yeah, that's my price. That's like literally the best thing I have. Yeah.
Yeah, keep that for a
I
while.
didn't even realize how good it was. Like my friends, I shared my screen and they were freaking out, and I was like, I don't need IED, and they were like, are you fucking stupid? Yeah. So.
Yeah, but even if you could not need it, and you could make it so that you don't rely on it, because you have it together with the other things, and which makes the next upgrade so far down, it's better to rely on it and then get a little bit less in the hyperstat and a little bit less in the link skill, right? And then you can go more for damage there, so you can essentially translate the IED line into damage, even though it doesn't directly maybe do damage for you. So having a bigger Legion and more link skills gives you the flexibility to build around things that are less flexible, like potential. Because the only way you could switch your potential is by risking completely losing it or spending a lot of money on black cubes. But when it comes to your Legion and your link skills, you just minus 2 skills and add 2 other ones, and boom. Or for hyperstats, you just click a different preset and you click a little bit, but it's way more flexible. So you want to build up flexible systems around the more rigid systems.
Wait, black cubes?
Sorry, bright. Yeah, they're called bright cubes now. They used to be called bright cubes.
So I'm fucking.
Yeah, we had glowing and bright. Yeah, we used to be red and black. So that's the one that Korea still has. That they had all the the tier up changes and all that with. Yeah. So there's 3 big things, right? There's flaming, there's cubing, there's potential. There's cubing, there's Star Force. Flaming is typically just get a good flame on your weapon and then only just use flames in certain order, but you don't really buy them at all until your equip is going to stay with you for a very, very long time. These days, events give so many of them that you really just don't buy a single. You only buy some flames maybe for your weapon, and that's it. Once you have like a new weapon, you get a good flame on it, and then once you have that, you don't buy any flames.
Yeah, that's what I did with the wind coins. I just bought a few, a bunch of flames.
Event shops are really good for that. And then you go back to flames once everything is done. Once everything is like 3-lined and 22 stars, then you go crazy on flames. But basically only then. In between there, you just slowly bring everything up. And again, you can use a progression grid, right, to kind of look at like what kind of flame values are you looking for, depending on the level of the item and depending on the type of the item. So you slowly bring it up, but there's no pressure on it really, except like the weapon. That's why the weapon is singled out here as well for the flame, for the value of the flame that you're looking for.
Yeah, my weapon is a pretty nice flame.
Yeah, I think I saw it got some magic attack and some damage. Yeah, that's solid. For your arcane, for every weapon, the longer you keep it, the higher you put the bar, right? Because the more value you'll get out of it. So eventually we'll aim for higher. But since you're working, you're level 266, so you're definitely working towards getting your whole shebang here, your whole getup has changed with arcanes. We don't want to over invest in Abzo. Well, you never want to over invest. What I mean is you'll be more likely to over invest in something that you don't keep long versus something that you keep for a long time.
So I shouldn't keep. I shouldn't Star Force any of my equipments that you see on your screen right now, other than maybe the CRA.
Yeah, so CRA you'll keep for a very long time.
Because of
Yeah. So again, if you can progress very, very quickly through your guild, like you've got carries, you've got people who are making sure that you can hit the marks on the damage and everything, and you can already start working on Eternal, then maybe some people only go for you still probably go for a 19-star CRA because that's very cheap. You probably end up with 21 before you even go into Eternals because of how much money that is in general compared to how much money Eternals are going to be. I don't know if you've heard some numbers there, but
Yeah, I
you
saw.
can go to the hundreds of billions per a single piece. So yeah.
I really like watching videos of people booming and succeeding on Eternals. It gives me
Schadenfreude, they call that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like the extreme version of like, oh, I'll get Eternal eventually, so I don't even have to wear my CRA, right? There's of course, if you go too extreme in that you don't have the damage to even get the drops, and then, especially for you, again, as a bishop, that you do need your damage, so it's going to be hard to get your drops if you don't have at least decent enough gear to make sure that you meet those arbitrary requirements that Nexon has put up. So. From these pieces, so the Abzo will stay where it is. If you're looking at, so if we go into Star Force, right? Because Flames is kind of, that's easy, quickly done. We go to Star Force. There's a bunch of options there. One is definitely like how long are you going to keep it. The other one is like how risky is it to Star Force it. There's two main things there. One is transfer hammering, and one is just straight up Star Forcing. And then if it booms, you trace, and then you just keep going, right? For the second one, so backups is a huge thing. If you want to get eventually like a 22 star CRA, you just need to do enough CRA bosses and have enough pieces, and then probably want to use a 5, 10, 15 to still minimize the booms, because if you minimize the boom, the standard deviation isn't as wide, so you are less likely to get very unlucky. You're also less likely to get very lucky, but I usually don't count on that. I try to usually...
Some people try to push for 20 stars when it's not 5, 10, 15.
Yeah, for 30% off, some people will do it as well.
Oh,
so
30%, okay.
Yeah, usually not off event, but like 30% off. If you look at like 21 and 22 starring, if you're not safeguarding, then going very high Star Force is about the same cost between 5, 10, 15 and 30% off. But the average booms is higher on a 30% off, because 15 to 16 is just so garbage, and you'll be there for a long time. So I usually do 5, 10, 15 because it's just more reliable, certain like amount of money that you spend, and just 15 to 16 failing like 12 times in a row is just really, really fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
So I usually use 30% off to get up to 15, and then 5, 10, 15 to go past 15. That's usually what I do. And then Shining is usually for 21 to 22 Star Force, or Arcanes past 19. So everything below that, I'll just use any 5, 10, 15 that comes on my way. But like Shining Star Force is 5, 10, 15 and 30% off at the same time. So I usually wait for those really big projects up to 22, where it can go well, but it could also go really, really wrong. But I'm more risk aversive than the average person, so you'll kind of get used to that for yourself. You probably have 1 or 2 events where you thought that it was definitely never going to fail, and you just fail horribly, and then you get really more cautious in the future.
Yeah, I lost my fucking secondary and my my bean mark, and I know it's fucking nothing. It's like you crafted one and the other drops pretty much every other week, but it was still scary to overnight. That's
So once you're like doing a mule and there's not as much pressure on it, you can be more like, oh, I'll just try this. If it goes, that's cool. If it doesn't, I'll figure something else out. But if it's on your main character or it's something you're already wearing, that can also change your perspective a lot. Like let's say you have a 17-star Twilight mark and you have a second one that drops. Well, do you tap your existing one? Do you do the other one? How far do you go? Like, there's a whole lot of different situations of what you could do. So for me, I always look at, well, what are the possible outcomes and which plan gives me the lowest chance of a bad outcome. And even if it gives me a bad outcome, it's not going to be that bad of an outcome. So if I'm on a character that, let's say the goal for the character is always central, right? Like, what do you want to be able to do with your character? If the goal of your character is to be doing certain bosses in a certain amount of time, like for example, maybe you want to do Hard Lotus and then normal Damien and then just all the bosses below and you're a boss mule, then usually I'm going to be looking at, okay, I'm probably looking at for the character, it's not necessary, but I'm usually looking for somewhere over 30k stat, like 32k stat, which probably means that like the CRA is probably 21, and then all the other stuff is like 17 or 19, and everything has like 2-line legendary stat. That's like roughly where I want to be at. So if I get lucky and I get a bunch of Kana treasure rings, I might see if I can tap one of those to 21, because if that goes, that may be something else that gets unlucky. I don't have to push past 17 because it can compensate for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's more like bigger picture. When you have more options, then you can start. Because what some people do, like, oh, the kind of treasure gets to 21. Now everything has to get higher to match those standards.
Yeah.
Or like something gets a really good flame. Now my flames have to be better because otherwise they look bad compared to this one. For me, it's more like, oh, something lucks into a good flame. Cool. Now the item next to it can have a little bit under average flame and it'll compensate. So now I don't have to, you know, as long as across the board on average, I'm roughly where I want to be. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's more how I'm looking at it. So for Star Force, there's a lot of different options, but it usually comes down to backups. So again, CRA, we talked about that. Shields, you can usually make a bunch of backups, so it kind of follows the amount of stars as the CRA as well, as long as you have the materials. And then Golden Clover Belt is one that you can definitely... You could also Star Force if you have more of them, so that once you do get the Superior Belt, you can transfer hammer it over in a bigger jump. So if you're Star Forcing to Trace, you tend to do 1 star at a time, because if it, you know, fails, you can always just bring the other one back up. So every intermittent star is good value. But if you're transfer hammering, so maybe for some characters you might want to do Absolab transferring, like level 150 into Absolab, if you want to go for high star Absolab. This mainly has to do with if you don't want to fuck around with Arcane on that character, right? Because unless your Arcane is going to go past 19 eventually, it's not really worth going Arcane. It'll make more sense to just go 21 Abso. It's cheaper, faster, and stronger. But you can't really do that unless you have an account that's already like established and you know what you're doing, right? But it's an easy corner to cut. But when it comes, the main transfer hammer is when you go into superior stuff. So you want to get the fodder equipped, so like the Golden Clover Belt, you want to save a bunch of those. And then, because for your first belt, you know, you could just get the belt to 17 and equip it and it'll be an upgrade. But if your account is in such a state where the next step after that would be probably a 21 Golden Clover Belt, transfer hammer into the belt at 20 and then see if you can tap it to 21 or keep it at 20, but, you know, have 3 extra stars on the belt immediately. But if you do the first step first, which most people do, and then go to the second one, you'll have to redo your potential, right? Because when you transfer hammer over, you only get up to epic potential, so it'll be scaled down and then you have to redo it. But if you get to the point where you have like 12 Golden Clover Belts, and you have money and there's an event by the time you get your superior belt, maybe you go for a 21 to 20 transfer first on your very first belt, and now you can sit on that potential for longer, so now you can also go for a slightly better potential because you're not going to have to redo it as early, right? So then again, then that way you can turn like a negative of not getting your drop when other people have gotten it into a positive by being able to skip to the next step faster.
So that I have like a Clover Belt ready on 21 when I get like a Superior. When Superior finally drops, that I can just transfer hammer it.
Yeah, if that makes sense for your account as like the project to be working on. So usually we do the, you know, the CRA and probably your shield, those go first. So CRA will probably reach 21 first, and the shield will go up to 20 first, and sometimes the black B mark, right, depending on how many backups you've gotten there. Maybe kind of treasuring if you get lucky in the drops or in the amounts. But then the Clover Belt is pretty much the next piece because it's one you can get a lot of backups from, and it's also one that if you can jump that step and you can avoid having to do your potential twice, then, you know, you save money that way. So that is something that people want to do, yeah.
And would you say for CRA in particular, the way to go about it now, like a smart way to go about it now would be like to open a new one and start pushing it towards like 20, and if it works, that becomes my new equipment?
No, because you're gonna be if it booms, you're just gonna trace and reuse it, which means that you're basically getting your flame and your potential are staying. If you're doing what you're doing and that one ends up being the one that works, then you have to invest all your money into redoing your flame and your potential again. So it makes more sense to just work on the one that you already have, because in worst case scenario, you know, you drop some stats on one, but ideally you're going to be looking at walking it up like 1 star at a time, so that eventually, even if you do end up with something boomed or you run out of money, you will still have made some gains on the on some pieces, you know? Like if you have 3 17s and you try to walk them up to like 19 and 2 of them go to 18 and the third one just doesn't go and you run out of money, you still even if the one doesn't go to 17 and 6 on 16 or something, losing a 16 to 17 star is way less than gaining 2 17 to 18 stars. So you still go forward.
So it would
even
be smarter to push the current ones, and if they boom, you just if they boom, the new one gets everything, right? Minus like how many extra faults?
You go to 12, but you keep all the other stuff on it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay.
There is one exception. Let's say that you have a boss mule and you get like 17 star, maybe like unique potential on it or something, right? Like 9 or 12% stat, whatever, and the flame score is like 65 or 70 or something, which is fine for a boss mule, right? And you've been doing the bosses for a long time, and you want to make a big jump, you want to make a big upgrade. You have the money to like get 21 CRA on there. Maybe it's gained some levels, and you want to do more bosses with that character. Then one of the things that you could do is first open up all the pieces from CRA that you got, because when you open up pieces, it gives you eternal flame value.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you can have like 80 backups or something, you basically have 80 Eternals. And there is a chance that you get a flame that's so good that it's actually more valuable than your 17-star mediocre flame, mediocre potential CRA. And then it makes more sense to work on that second piece and just completely ignore your current one.
Mm-hmm.
So
because it already came prepared, with the flame.
Mm-hmm. Well, at that point, you just want to use the calculator and be like, how much does my potential really cost? Because in the beginning, going on a Boston Mule and making like a 60 star, 17 star, 60 flame, like 9 to 12% top or bottom, or top and bottom and hat is kind of expensive, right? But once you get into the point of like trying to tap arcanes from 19 to 21, then what I just mentioned is like you can do like 5 of those every single day and you won't really lose your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be as attached to an upgrade that you made like 6 months after it as much as when at the moment that you made it, because your income and how much you can replace goes up very quickly in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you don't need to be like emotionally attached to whatever it has, because you could hit a flame, and again, this is where the calculators come in, but you could hit a flame, but that by itself technically has more value than than all the rest of your things in your account combined, for example.
Mm-hmm.
As weird as that is. Like I hit a really good flame on my earring, which is worth 1.5 trillion meso. If I had to put like everything else together, I mean, I'd probably pass it, but not by all that much. So that means that you might have to just completely abandon whatever you already had and just focus on this one thing kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in CRA in particular, it comes into like it's if I open like new ones, like would you say just like rolling, instead of rolling flames on an existing one, just opening pieces?
Yeah, it's mostly if you are trying to make a really big upgrade, because that means that what you have is really low value. So if you technically, if you have like, you want to go from 21 to 22 and you could get like 400 backups or something that you could open first, you probably mathematically should do it as well, but opening 400 of them takes forever because it keeps equipment space and then you have to like sell them.
Yeah.
Technically, if you want to min-max, then you want to level up your alchemy to Meister and then fuse them, because when you fuse them, you also gain, if you're a Meister, the value of up to an Eternal Flame. So if you have 400 backups and you fuse them, then you get 2x minus 1, so then you get 799 Eternal Flame worth of rolls. And you could throw into the calculator and see like how much can you get on average from 800 Eternal Flames, and that could be a higher value. But at this point, you're basically every single project you're looking at, you're throwing it into the calculator first to see like how much is this going to be? Is this a good time for me? Because rather than doing an upgrade because you can, you're going to upgrade because it's functional. Like it gets you stronger, it moves you forward, and it is the most optimal upgrade that you can make in that moment. And yeah, it doesn't make sense to do anything else in that moment, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked with the calculators a little bit already?
I tried. I'm not very good with it, but I tried to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you mentioned like not being good at numbers. I'll be okay. Oh, well, we're already like way over time, but I'll be okay with like running you through a little bit, like because the star forcing one is probably the most important one. Because like we said, flaming is, just get a good weapon flame and then come back to it in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this, right? You've used this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So most of the time, so if you have backups and you have a lot of them of the items, then you tend to not safeguard. But as always, you can just do both of the inputs and then see the difference and then understand why that people say that, right?
Yeah, I kind of played around with it, and I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm probably not getting anything out of this. So yeah, it's
Yeah, and that can be a good once you have that, like, oh, I'm probably not getting anything out of this, because we didn't go into that just yet. But what that probably means is that it makes more sense to get more drop rate and meso obtain. Make sure that that's completely figured out. Maybe more drop rate, so that you have more pieces, so that next time you can realistically make those upgrades.
yeah.
So that you can turn that negative of like I can't do anything into, well, what can I invest into then to make sure that the next time I have a higher chance of being able to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the because you have you have a lot of options, right? And it's easy to kind of like hit a wall because you're like, I don't know where to go from here. But not doing anything is the only way that you can like make sure that you're not going anywhere. But if you at least get more drop rate, like that can never really go wrong, because all it can do is give you options.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have 17 star CRA and you have 5 bill and you have no backups, you can't do anything. But you have 4 bill and you have 10 backups, now you can at least try, right? And the only people who can succeed is the people who can try.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are also the only people who can fail, of course, right? But yeah, those are the only people who can succeed. So that's why that's what it connects to. So usually like level 150. This one is like almost on normal. We don't use the superior stuff. Star catching typically, I don't know how you do it, but typically I just calculate. Yeah, well,
I don't think star catching helps. Okay, put your tinfoil hat on. Star catching doesn't do shit for your star forcing.
Yeah, I know, because I star caught one time and it still failed, so that means it doesn't do anything. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, I rest my case.
And then I skipped star catch and it worked, so that confirmed it 100%. Yeah.
And it not only did it worked like a couple of times in a row. So
damn, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you're more liberals. Okay.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that if you have some guilds can build the enhancement room, and inside the enhancement room, the star catch automatically happens. So then you can always put the star catch on, because then you don't have to do the mini game, right? It'll just work. But if you're
I'm going to the star catching.
Yeah, well, if you don't have one, then you just I like to turn it off so that in case I do star catch here and there, it is a little bit cheaper. But I want to calculate on like worst case scenario a little bit, right? So if you're doing CRA, you're not safeguarding because you have a lot of backups. Current stars, let's say you're at 17. Let's say next event you want to go to 19. Let's say you're not a whale and you don't have MVP discount. Server. Yeah.
Oh, I have. So I had to flex, but yes, I have 3%.
Oh, okay. Well, it's only between 1 and 16 stars, right? But if it drops down, it'll be a little bit discount, yeah. And then event. So at this point, you could just click calculate. I do number of trials 1,000. You could do 10,000. It'll take a little bit longer to calculate, but you'll get a more accurate number, right? And you can see the median cost. The median cost basically means that if you do one item, this is, or if you put like all of the individual instances, then this is like what you can expect to pay. But as soon as you do a whole bunch of characters, a bunch of items, what happens is you get outliers, right? You get unlucky, you get lucky, and then the average is a more reasonable number to do. So if you do like one item, you can look closer to the median. But as long as you start doing multiple items, I would look at the average so that you have a little bit of a buffer. And then the percentiles will tell you like 75% of people get it within 4.5 bill. So it takes into account like starting from the left, basically the first 75%. And then this one takes the 85%. And then this one takes the 95%, right? Because like, yeah, it seems like 5%, like that'll never happen. But that's 1 in 20 people. How many people play this game?
I'm 20th.
Yeah, yeah. In some things, you're gonna be the 20th, right? So you can see like the unluckiest person here spent 31 bill, but that's very unlikely. They boomed 21 times, just going to 19. and the luckiest person just spent 89 mil. They just tap and we're done, right? Yeah. So medium booms is like 1 to 1.5 booms if it's off event. So now you can see how good is an event. Boom, 30% off, and then you can see the price difference. Or you can see 5, 10, 15, and you can see what that difference is between 30% off and 5, 10, 15. If they're shining, you can tap both of them, and then you can see the difference. You can see the difference in booms. You can see the percentiles. This is a way you can put things together. I think the most important thing to use this for is not how much this is going to cost exactly, but more, I have 10 bill. Is it reasonable to expect to have like all of my CRA go to 21? Because a lot of people are like, I'm unlucky, I didn't hit a 21. And I was like, well, were you unlucky, or do you not know the odds, and do you not know that you spent way less than what would be the average to spend, and did you actually get, as weird as it is, above average luck by not reaching what you thought you wanted to reach, right?
Me, the uneducated, would have guessed that I just got unlucky, so...
Yeah, exactly. But then you can think like the whole system is rigged, but you never actually knew the numbers, so you're just choosing to feel like you got wronged.
I still feel that the system is rigged, but a lot has changed in my view, in my the way I see it.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, it's more about like, this is all about like being informed about your decisions. Because I never really feel like I should be saying like you have to save for event, or you have to do this, or you have to do, you know, this many Star Force before the potential. You can kind of do what you want. But if you can work the calculators and you can interpret the numbers, then certain things will just make more sense than others. But it doesn't mean that you can't just sometimes do what the hell you want to do, because if that's fun for you, then you fucking go ahead, right?
Because we ball.
Yeah, exactly. We ballin'. So like you have CRA, and there's, you know, you have like 3 at 19, and you just want to like tap 1 at 21 and see if it goes. If you end up going from 19 down to 17 or to 18, you won't really feel your damage change at all. But if you hit a 21, that'll feel really good. So that might be an EV plus, like, you know, that might be like upside is very big and downside is not that big, right? So that might be something that you want to do personally. And ultimately, yeah, if you make that decision for yourself, then you go ahead for it. But as long as you know where the information is and you can know your odds, then do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's this calculator. Yeah, the other stuff is for flames, it can get a little bit more complicated because it looks at what, like, how many flames it would use on average to hit a certain flame. But that can put into perspective how good something is compared to something else, even if you can't really see that from just the numbers on the items. But I think you're do you have some spare items lying around for some more drop rate? You've got a decent amount of meso obtained. Are you over? 1, 2.
So yeah, I got I got 5 meso drop. I got 1 grid pendant with 20 drop. And yeah, I don't have any like anything that's laying around that isn't put to use, that I can just like put, you know, item drop on. I can roll, like I can cube some reinforced rings, or, you know, some like I have like a few dome pens, like 3 dome pens laying around that I can cube to.
Yeah, you kind of want to avoid having like 25 legendary accessories, because the initial investment to get it to legendary is quite high. What makes more sense is kind of think like which pieces are going to get replaced eventually with either, you know, Sweetwater stuff, or with Daybreak stuff, or with Superior stuff, anything like that, or with Pitched eventually, God forbid. And because then when that happens, the equipment becomes like completely available and it's already legendary, so then re-rolling is super cheap. You did mention the Papulatus mark, right? Let's make sure that we address that, because you were talking about getting this to the legendary because it's already 18%.
Yeah, it's 9/9, and I'm like, I mean, it's like my glove. My glove is 10/10, but it's a glove, and I wanted crit damage on it, but I'm like, 10/10 is so fucking crisp. So I'm like, yeah, because well, that's good, because you're looking at like the cost. Because whether you have 20% or you have 0%, the tier up cost is the same, right? So you're getting the same benefit from it, but you're losing more. So you're already looking at it that way, so that's good.
I'm definitely like a guy who loves just sitting on good unique potential before getting it to legendary, because it's way more money for not as many gains, right? But eventually it's going to become worth it, but it'll be later. So if your goal is to get like drop and meso stuff, like you're using the Papulatus mark, do you have any other eye accessories? You have the black bee mark, yeah, and that one has meso. So right now you don't have a eye accessory that has drop rate, right?
Right, I only have one item that has drop rate. That's the grid band.
Well, don't you have a few other? You have a superior ring here, I see.
Superior ring, oh yeah, my superior ring has item drop.
Yep.
I mean, yes, that's I knew
You definitely knew that. Yeah.
My superior Golex has 29 and 6, which is a beautiful line, and I was aware of it.
Yep. Yeah, because if it's drop rate and it's like a 15 int as well, yeah, you might as well keep that. That's good temporary value until you're splitting your accessories up into like a damage set and a drop rate set. You can it's a very good idea to have like kind of like hybrid if it does a little bit of both. That's good value. But yeah, I would get some more drop rate here, because again, like if you rush towards good potential and 17 star, you can kind of keep up with the damage required, but then you hit the wall even harder once you need to go past that, because then you don't have backups.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to start off a little slower and go for more drop and meso earlier, and then use the backups to get into the damage stuff. And then just let the backups guide you on where you have the most backups, then you have the lowest risk, and then push there a little bit harder than on the other things.
That's one of the things that frustrated me the most, especially today when I tried running Villa and Sigloom, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing enough damage. And then I'm looking at my items, and a lot of them changed today before I sent them to you. It was like, a lot of them had like, I had like meso drop rate on some of them, and so I created a new one with like attack lines on it, because I didn't like the fact that I'm doing bosses with meso gear. So, yeah.
Yeah, usually it's just not that much of a problem because you have more time more weeks and more boss runs to get backups. But because of the extra leveling and the faster progression in terms of like getting to the content, you feel that more, and you feel like there's more pressure on already having everything. But these things just take time, right? And you just have to kind of be okay with the fact that some of the things is going to take a little bit longer than your level, and it might, even though it sucks a little bit, might be okay to like take a step back or be a little bit more like a higher demand in terms of like who do you have in your party and where do you find your party in terms of them letting you hit the damage and that kind of stuff. If you're running, and if you can't find that, then just running the lower level difficulty and then just blowing that up for the meso. But focusing more on getting that foundation of the drop rate, with the familiar and with the gear, making that all ready, so that the next time an event comes, now you have a whole bunch of options, and then you can make those big jumps. Because as you can imagine, if you make smaller jumps and upgrade, yeah, you'll always be at your strongest because you'll be always spending your money, but you'll spend more money per upgrade than someone who make really big jumps compared to small jumps. And that's the benefit of when something is not your first character, you know where you can cut those corners, and you can see opportunities when you see certain drops appear, and you know how important drop rate is, and you get that early, and then you can start seeing like, oh, I have like 4 boss mules, one has like 2 dominators and 4 kind of treasure rings or something. Oh, there's an event, maybe I can see if I can get those to 19 stars or to 18 stars, and then if superior comes, boom, I can immediately make 17. I don't have to worry about it, for example. And yeah, it's like is it like luck is where opportunity means preparation, right? Like lucky's definitely a lot of opportunity, but it's also a lot of preparation of being able to accept that luck when it happens and being able to put it to use.
Yeah, no, that's I think that covers everything, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
And then some.
just yeah. Thank you, by the way. And sorry, and last thing is just about the weapon and like its two magic attack lines. And like, does it take more priority to push that into 3 lines or like looking for something better than that?
No,
Over.
Arcane is too soon for you.
Hmm.
So it's better just save up so that when Arcane comes, you can go harder on the Arcane.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because that'll be such a huge damage increase for you. Like, Derek, who's running Kalos with us, just got to 270 on his bishop. And he was still using, like, the Abzo as well. And he just switched to his weapon. And I think he gained, like, as much magic attack as you have now or something from the upgrade. So it's like...
Yeah.
Is it like a fake weapon as well, right? The fake Abzo that doesn't have any percentage magic attack. So, like, the higher base, the star, the higher flame... The tiers and the flames also give a higher percentage. So magic, I don't know if anyone knows by heart like how much a staff, like a 17-star staff arcane is with tier 6, but I think it's probably a little bit over 600 magic attack. So yeah, it just helps. Yeah, brings up everything else higher as well with it. Yeah, no, your weapon, secondary, and emblem are all in good spot. The downside, quote unquote, of like hitting all magic attack is that it will make your, if you look at the progression grid, it'll make your magic attack maybe seem a little bit higher than it needs to be, or like you're already on the upper end, and it may look like your damage total, which is, you know, usually includes a little bit of boss damage from your weapon and your secondary. It'll make that look like less than it needs to be. So you just have to be aware that those are probably kind of compensating each other right now. Oh, Derek is here. Showed his weapon. Here we go. Oh, yeah. The tier 6, it's 681 magic attack. At 17
Jesus
stars.
Christ.
So that's what, 50% more than... more than 50% more than your current one.
Yeah.
No. 250 magic attack, basically.
Always good to compare with other, like, more endgame players. Yeah. Always makes me feel good about myself.
Well, so that you know that
But
once
yeah,
you get that,
yeah.
that's how big the upgrade is going to be. So you also know that it's
exactly.
more important to focus on that weapon than to try to get a little bit more out of this one. And again, if you want to know, you could check exclamation mark cubing and be like, what would it cost you if you wanted to get a better potential than your current one? So you can go weapon, you can go glowing cubes, and you can go legendary, level 160. Let's say that you want like 2 lines of attack and 1 line of boss. Right, something like that. So beyond average, somewhere between... No, that's not right. 2 line attack percent? Oh, or boss, sorry. 2 line attack, 23 attack and 30 boss. Yeah, something like this. Look like 16 bill median, 22.7 bill average cost for that line of boss. But then if you're going to spend this and then get a weapon in like 2 weeks, then you're going to have to spend that money again, right?
Yeah.
So stick to selecting the parties where you can hit blue or green, or where people are willing to let you do that, and then run as many of those bosses as possible so that you can get the box, and then go hard on the thing, and then you can be able, you know, can join more parties, and you don't have to feel like you're holding people back of like, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah.
Because your damage will be going up a lot with that. And then, you know, if they still don't wait, then just run away with your benediction and use it for yourself.
Yeah. Which I learned over there today, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, with the gloves, then you go for critical damage, right? Because critical damage is... Well, because 1 line of critical damage is basically like 35 or 36% intellect worth because of how good it is. Especially if you have lower legion, lower links and everything, then critical damage comparatively is better. But again, you're going to be using that glove then for a whole long time. So then you know for sure it's worth it because you'll get the value back from it. And then you probably have to look for the Bishop Discord with that. But I know for the hats, there's like a thing where I think if you get like 4-second cooldown reduction, it's like really good because of the Peacemaker. Yeah,
that's, something
for mobbing and for the bossing uptime. So, but right now you have 21 with the second of cooldown. That's really nice, of course, for the time being. So, and if you do roll for those potentials, it's always with black cubes, or sorry, always with bright cubes. So that means that you can also just run over your current one once it makes sense. And then if you don't hit in the session, you'll still always be able to fall back on this one. So
Yeah.
It's a decent position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
The cup is nice. That's going to be there for a while, but that's a good flame. Yeah. Yeah, some boss practice or some videos of like other bishops doing certain bosses might help you in kind of like cheesing in more damage, so that you can, the combination of having more drop, getting more clear, getting better party, and then better mechanics by more practice. All of that hopefully should get you more items, more chances of items, and then you can not get bottlenecked.
Okay.
Yeah, feel good?
Awesome. Yeah, that made a lot of things. That made a lot of things make more sense.
Yeah. All right. If there's still like specific topics or something that you need to go in a little bit deeper, you can always use my commands, right? Sometimes there's YouTube videos or guides or whatever. And then if something isn't clear, you can always ask in the chat or leave a comment somewhere, and then I'll get back to you. So
yeah, sure, I will do. And again, I am sorry for taking up more time than.
It's fine. I'm long-winded too. It happens.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely partially me. I could just cut you up, but I don't do that. I also just want to keep talking.
Yeah.
So much to say about this stuff. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much for the time. And
Arcane drops
it
soon.
was a lot of things. I'm just gonna what was I have nothing left to say. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Okay. So yeah, another bishop. Bishop, very popular, rightfully so, very good class. But remember, you get levels very quickly. You can join those high-level boss parties very quickly. But then they just want to use you for the buff to their damage. And then not everyone might be willing to help you out, make sure that you get enough damage and to get any drops at the end. That's the major downside. So I would say find friends through pickup groups, find people who are willing to think along, people who are respectful in that sense. Find a guild where people are able to help you out with that kind of stuff. Maybe a little bit of tit for tat, they help you on your bishop, or, they wait for you on your bishop to deal enough damage. You help them with another character, maybe, something where you can feel like you're adding value to each other's situation. So hopefully some tips here for people who feel like they aren't quite, especially for supports who feel like they aren't getting their value. And again, yeah, it sucks. Nexon should either have less stringent restrictions on the damage for big parties, or they should have a better way of gauging how much damage you're actually adding to the party rather than how much you're specifically hitting on your damage numbers, because of course that falls very short of how much value you have as a bishop. Many people who are late game and end game know that bishop adds, if you look at the damage they add plus the damage they do themselves, they do the most damage out of any party by far. Of course, unless you have like 4 supports in a party, then you start getting huge diminishing returns on that. Because you could be that logic like, well, bishop is the best. Why did you just use 6 bishops? Well, now, now things start changing a lot. But yeah, hopefully some tips there for you. Hopefully otherwise entertaining. Hopefully a long training session is now over and you made 2.5 hours of gains. I don't know how long this video is at this point. If you want one of these sessions, not this long, because we're definitely very good at time managing. Make sure you either leave a comment with your Discord name saying that you would like to win, and then you could be one of the 2 lucky winners at the end of the month. Or check out my stream if you're a subscriber over at Twitch and you just watch the stream. You can also just request free sessions. So by paying, you can get free sessions. It still comes out cheaper. Trust the math. Or you can donate directly, pay directly for the session. It's also possible. Information is in the description or under !coaching in the Twitch chat. That's the !, that's how you pull up these commands. All of these other commands are also all available in the Twitch chat, even when I'm offline, so feel free to check them out, bookmark them, whatever, use them at your own leisure. If you see something that you think is wrong or you have additional questions, just let me know, and either we correct it or I explain it, and we'll just, we'll break it down. We'll make sure that we are on the same page with that. Yes, with all that said, thank you for watching. See you either in the next video or over at twitch.tv/Scarter, where I stream every day. See ya. Bye.